going live on YouTube, so please call all your YouTube friends. Now, please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The One Mic Show, and then follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. We're also taking live calls tonight. The number to call, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Now, tonight we'll ask if diaspora town hall engagements with politicians have any value beyond speeches and selfies. We'll then revisit 𝒒𝒏𝒚𝒂'𝒏 this week, asking if protest is still the way to go, or have they become a death trap? We'll also talk about the $1 billion church on State House grounds. And here in the US, a Kenyan CEO is being blamed for the failure of the Black Essence Festival. So start dropping comments below and tell us where you're tuned in from and what you think about the topics that we're going to be covering today. Na bila kusahau, tumekuwa tukipokea mziki toka DJ wetu, machachari, mleta habari, DJ 𝒒𝒆𝒏𝒄𝒉𝒆𝒔, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika 𝑺𝒐𝒊𝒏 nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios, ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
All right, now this hour we are diving deep into the value of diaspora town halls as Riggy G and Matiang'i meet Kenyans in the US. Have previous diaspora town halls by Kenyan politicians had meaningful impact, or are they glorified PR parades? Please drop a comment below and tell us what you think, and also tell us where you're tuned in from. If you're tuned in from Dallas, if you're tuned in from DC, if you're tuned in from Baltimore, tell us where you're tuned in from. And I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. It is Friday the 11th of July. We are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, DC. Please again remember to follow us on social media, The One Mic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we're now on TikTok. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. 𝑤𝒏𝒑𝒐𝒏𝒂𝒏, a sports anchor Mika 𝑺𝒑𝒆𝒏𝒚𝒂'𝒏 will be joining us, and DJ 𝒒𝒆𝒏𝒆𝒔 will also be live in studio. And also not forgetting that our super producer is none other than 𝒊𝒈𝒈𝒚. I want to take this opportunity first to welcome all the guests who already tuned in. 𝒒𝒑𝒆𝒒 is already in the building and anasema hi, karibu sana. Stephen Bati also from Texas in the building and anasema hey, na Stephen JJ anasema ndani ya Justice. Sasa hiyo hapo tuambie na maanisha nini. But again, Texas in the building. 𝒒𝒑𝒆𝒒, Texas. Stephen Bati, Texas. Stephen JJ, Texas. If there's anyone from any other city or any other state outside of Texas or any other country, please drop a comment and let us know where you're tuned in from. Now, we're going to get started because we have so much to unpack tonight and so much to cover. Now, a few weeks ago, on the anniversary of the Gen Z revolt, youths across Kenya occupied their cities once again, where the chants of "Ruto must go" echoed even louder. But earlier this week, as the youths attempted to return on the streets in commemoration of 𝒒𝒏𝒚𝒂'𝒏, the chants were muffled following a calculated state-funded suppression of protests. The streets were thinner in CBD because of blocked access, but the goon for hire phenom was in full display as we witnessed goons attacking protesters with cover of uniformed police, with the day ending in more bloodshed and carnage. Now, as President Ruto remained silent about the deaths, broad-based partner Raila Odinga offered a solution of having an intergenerational national conclave, and we'll be talking about this later on the show today, so I want you to stay tuned. Now, as the nation wrestles with the unrest, the lines between church and state continue to blur as word came out of President Ruto's plan to build a 1.2 billion shilling church inside State House grounds. Now, there was also a Supreme Court ruling that overruled the Kadhi's courts on inheritance entitlement for children born out of wedlock. So tonight, we're also going to ask, where is the line between separation of religion and state, and who gets to draw it? Across the ocean in the US, there was another burning fire. At the annual Black Essence Festival in New Orleans, African influence has suddenly come under attack. Now, Caroline Wanga, a Kenyan at the helm, now being blamed for the festival's flop. We'll be asking if this is a fair critique, or is Africanization the new scapegoat for failed black capitalism? And what does this say about black unity when the blame comes across oceans? But first, we must talk about politicians landing on American soil to meet diaspora. Now, we know that Fred Matiang'i has already met Kenyans in Dallas, Texas, and will soon be meeting Kenyans here in the DMV area. Now, Rigathi Gachagua, aka Riggy G, just landed in Washington State and is warming up to meet Kenyans in different parts of the U.S., including Boston and D.C. Now, the big question tonight is on the trend of Kenyan politicians coming to diaspora. With very few registered voters, what exactly is bringing them to the U.S.? Is it just to shake hands, give speeches, and pose for selfies? Or is there another motive most of us are not privy to? Which begs the question, should we still be showing up like groupies or as stakeholders with a list of demands? And a big question to the audience, have previous town halls by Kenyan politicians led to meaningful impact, or are they just glorified PR parades? I want those who are tuned in to type in the comments and tell us how the experience has been with these politician town halls, Kenyan politicians coming for town halls. Want you to tell us. I can see Lloyd Osunga is tuned in from New York, New Jersey. Karibu sana Lloyd Osunga. Let us know how these town halls, how the town hall experience has been for you. Have they had any impact, or was it just speeches, selfies, and another public relations parade? So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's conversation will leave no sacred cow untouched. And with me to navigate this heat is my regular panel of DJ 𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒔, Mr. 𝑭𝒏𝒈 𝒂𝒂, and Mika Och. Now, I'm going to get started here with DJ 𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒔. DJ 𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒔, karibu sana. You've been here in the U.S. the longest. So, I want you to say hello to the audience and tell us, when did this trend of politicians coming to the diaspora begin? Was it there from when you arrived here via Pan Am Airlines, or when did it start? DJ 𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒔, karibu sana.
Wow. Omosha kukuja na Mayflower.
Talk to us, DJ 𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒔.
I don't even know where to start. Mika, I see you're definitely somewhere in a state in the south, because I can see your redneckness coming through the mic. Lakini ni sawa. Welcome watu wangu.
Sisi watu wa juzi interview yetu ya citizenship tulizo Mayflower ni nini?
Okay. DJ 𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒔, talk to us. Tell us, talk about your experience with Diaspora Town halls.
I thought you were going to ask me about my experience with Mika, because that one is not very... Okay, so... So Diaspora Town halls, to be honest, and we are talking now with politicians. Wow. I would venture to say it never happened in the 90s. I can say that for sure, unless there's somebody who knows. It didn't happen in the 90s.
It never happened, or were you not politically active?
No, it did not happen. Diaspora town halls in the 90s did not happen. So basically, the diaspora meet and greets, to me, from my assessment, started happening when folks in Kenya, or the political elite, if that's what you want to call them, realized that we were a force because of the money we were sending home. Prior to that, they didn't need us, because it's not like we were voting for them.
When do you remember attending your first town hall in the diaspora? Approximately.
Man. I would venture to say mid-2000s.
So 2005?
Mid-2000s, unless somebody's telling me something different. Now, maybe somebody would say those, remember the conferences that used to happen with the embassy?
Those are very recent. Those are like 2011.
That's why I'm saying that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Because I even between, say, prior to the constitution being changed, I'm even trying to think if they would come here specifically to target. I know I had gone to, really the only person who would come back then was Rao. And it was more like, if you knew, you knew. If you didn't know, you didn't know. It wasn't an all-out effort of, I'm reaching out and this is, yani wa Kenya, ndaku hapa. But I'm gonna be here. Really, after 2010, after the
new constitution,
after the new constitution, and by then we were sending money. Because when did we start with Sendwave? Was that 08?
No, Sendwave is so recent. 2015. 2015. Yeah, that is very recent.
Yeah. So again.
But prior to that, it was more like.
Prior to that, it would be if somebody's coming, maybe it will be like a small thing of to say what wa village yako.
But almost,
not
I think
necessarily wa Kenya. Now, sasa wewe niambie experience yako, because I'm trying to remember and. In the 90s, I can say for sure 0.
Zero.
There were no politicians who are coming targeted to say, okay, we are coming and we're trying to hit the diaspora folks to do.
Okay.
It didn't happen.
If there's anyone who was here in the 90s, maybe let us know.
Didn't happen.
But where I say Omosh, maybe there might also been a case where you might have been politically inactive, because I came to the US in, was it 03 or 04?
Okay.
But and I remember right before I came, people were talking about Kibaki. When Kibaki came, it was not a town hall. It was actually an official state visit.
Correct.
He was invited by Bush.
Correct.
So we
that's
will
why
not count that.
Town hall.
But I know, I remember, like Uhuru coming as Kibaki's finance minister.
Okay.
Yeah, as Kibaki's finance minister. Because remember now, this is now happening. I want to say, I think this is, was it after 2005? I can't remember the year, but Kibaki came in
and when
but Uhuru came in.
And was Uhuru in DC or was he in Boston?
Uhuru was in DC. Actually, there was a point when he came to GW. Yeah,
okay, to GW.
To GW.
And remember, those were in fact, you and I had gone back and forth about the GW stuff. The things that GW normally were not.
They were not necessarily the town halls.
They were not town
now.
halls. They were actually the academicians who were inviting these people to come in to either speak on something or
yes, they were speaking engagements.
They were speaking engagements, and those were there because even if we go back to when Rao was here at Harvard, again he also was here at GW.
Okay.
We've had people come to
those were there. We've
had Pew Institute,
those were always
right?
there.
But the town halls, I would venture to say after 2010.
Okay, after
town halls, I would want to say this. What an Mosh kidogo.
Yeah.
Town hall, because I came here 2010, and I think town halls really became popular after Ambassador Odembo opened up those. After Ambassador Odembo encouraged people to start opening like
advisory
groups in different areas. Like you remember Diaspora Council or something where there was a Midwest chapter, which chapter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember those times. And Pasha was very vocal about telling people to register to those things because it was those that which made Ambassador Odembo start going to them, and then he created that seminar, that event in DC where we used to go, and from that I think that is when it became common. Now you will see people like Kinamiguna will come and go to town halls, and then other politicians started following suit, when they will come. People used to go where the politicians were. Let's say if they were coming to a seminar in UN in New York, people used to go to New York. But then after a while, after they realized that Kenyans have that organizations within themselves, they've created these organizations that they can meet and do. That is when we saw politicians now started going to Kenyans.
Okay, all right. So you're tuned into the One Mic Show. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We're talking about political town halls. Do they have any impact beyond the speeches and the selfies? When did they start? When did they become popular? We're already establishing here with DJ Omosh Fire that they were non-existent in the 90s, and even in the 2000s, it was politicians coming on speaking engagements. So if anyone remembers, any town hall they had with a member of parliament, with a minister, or anything, please drop in the comments. What were YouTube pia karibuni sana. Talk to us and tell us your experience about these diaspora town halls and what you think. And then, of course, we'd like to hear your opinions. Number to call, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Of course, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is in the U.S., he's in Washington State. He's going to be traveling to several states meeting Kenyans, including, he's going to move from Washington State. He's going to come to D.C., he's going to go to Boston, and a few other places. We still don't have the full itinerary. Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has already been meeting Kenyans in Dallas, Texas. Former Cabinet Secretary. Yes, correct. Thank you for the correction. Has met Kenyans in Dallas, Texas, and is scheduled for a town hall out here in the DMV area. We're going to be talking about that. I also want to welcome Moses Osoro, Exchangerian, Karibu Sana, also from Texas. Texas in the building. Deep. Anyone who's not from Texas, please type in and tell us. But Karibuni Sana. Washeke Ndirangu is claiming to be tuning in from Malabo. So Karibu Sana. I can also see if Mwangi Karibu Sana. Give us your comments. Tell us what you think. Now I'm going to come back to you, Mika, real quick before I come to Uno Mike here in studio. Mika, besides you being, coming here more recently in this group in 2010, you're also one of the few who's had an opportunity to actually to live in a different country outside Kenya other than the US, because you had a chance to live in the Middle East in Dubai. Now, these politician meetings, is it just now a US thing, or are these things also happening in Dubai, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Warabuni? Were these things happening there, or is this just a US thing? Mika?
Isn't huku kwenu?
Meaning nyinyi watu wa DC.
Huku kwenu, because wacha nikwambie, hata Dubai yule jamaa alikuwa kwa embassy, tulikuwa tunamwonanga siku za rugby, akikuja kuona, na yule yeye amekuja sherehe, hajakuja kazi. Yule nilikuwa tunamuona. Ukitaka kumuona unaenda kwa embassy. So hatukuanga na hizi sijia ati when I was in Dubai there was not this. I think one thing you have to know is that's a very big challenge, is mobilization of people, and hiyo kukusanya watu pamoja at one specific area is very hard, and that is why I'm saying the diaspora councils played a big part in these town halls, because now it became easier for people who are organizing them to go to a place where there's a huge number of people than trying to look for people somewhere to come. Or no. Like, if, let's say, I know that I don't know much about DC, but I want to bring OneMic to talk to people in DC. I'm not sure about the reception of how people react to OneMic in DC. But then if I come to DC and I find that in DC already there's a group of people who organize themselves discussing things that OneMic addresses, it's easier for me to reach out to them and tell them, yo, I have OneMic and he can actually be with you guys and talk to you guys about ABCD. So mobilization becomes easy. And that is why I can say that you'll find when these guys go to other countries, they don't talk to people a lot, except in the UK and here, because there's already that political mobilization that has been done by the locals over there. Ali, back to you.
Okay, all right. Now this is quite interesting, because we've had people with different experiences, and as we're establishing this diaspora town halls are a recent phenomena, and clearly there's a preference to the US, and we're going to try to establish why there's a preference to be coming to the US. Now, coming to you, OneMic, in studio, voice on the ground upper locally, you live in an area that is sometimes referred to as a stronghold, aka Baltimore, which has the highest population of Kenyans in the DMV. Now, former Deputy President Riggy touched down in Seattle, and it's noticeable that when most Kenyan politicians, not only Riggy, when most Kenyan politicians come to the US, they without fail are handled by their tribesmen and women. We've seen that with Matiang'i, we saw it with Ruto when he came here while campaigning, and now we are clearly seeing it with Riggy. So maybe OneMic, tell us why you think this happens almost without fail, or is this just mere coincidence? Am I looking too deep into this?
I don't think you are. I think for us, politics has always been tribal leaning.
So when you say us, who's us?
Kenya.
Politically correct.
Kenya has always been the politics has always been tribal leaning, and it's tribal cocoons, and for example, I'm going to use the example of Riggy. There has been a shift, especially after his impeachment, but prior to, with the rumblings, because you remember the campaign, how the campaign was very fierce, and there were divisions. There were divisions like in the mountain Murima, there were divisions, And then you start hearing rumblings. People are, okay, what's going on? And then you can see that this thing has. So the impeachment is passed through, even with that lawyer. What was his name? The guy who forwarded the motion. The lawyer.
Was it
Mutuse or something like that. Anyway, so after that. And so there has been a fallout, and this almost always happens. From my perspective, what I see, it doesn't matter who it is. If there's a fallout with a certain politician, with, let's say, the people that be, the powers that be, they always revert back to their home base.
The victim.
They always revert back to where they came from, their persons, their people. Mpaka sasa wanaanza, they engage in their lingua to show for them to be like kileni huruma, because si wananyanyasa nani, wakinyanyasa wanatunyanyasa sisi kama nani tunanyanyaswa. So the politics has always been like that. The shift there's a shift that has happened because of the Gen Z.
Okay.
Right? Because now that one, it doesn't matter what's going on right now in terms of trying to talk or trying to wave the tribal flag. People are like, Billas. That's not going to happen, because you can even see, like, even the president's stronghold, Huko, Eldoret, Rift Valley, whatever. Guys are like, apana, mambo ni one time. But it has been ingrained. It had been ingrained in us. I mean, it's even clearly visible, like even before elections happen, when the campaigns are gearing up towards now, towards elections, how all of a sudden, mimi na Omosh hatusikizani, because he's a Raila supporter. Maybe I don't like Raila, so we sort of always revert back to our tribes. Even, let's say, for example, Mtuwetu.
Yeah,
that has always been. It has always been. I'm not going to say it had always been, but it has always been that way.
Now, I'm going to take a slightly different take on this one, because this now again falls on certain generalizations that are sometimes made. I think the tribal leanings in Kenyan politics, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, out of the 40-something tribes, there's maybe like 10 tribes that dominate that tribal narrative. And why do I say this? I say this because, from spaces we come from, like, it's very normal to have people on different sides of the political divide. It's very normal, and it's very normal in a lot of parts of Kenya. So right now, I think President Ruto is trying to push the Somali community into supporting him. But if you look at the voting patterns over the years, they've always been fairly divided, whether it's 60-40, 50-50, or even 70-30. So, and there's the 5 big tribes.
Yes.
And I will mention them by name. Number 1, Kikuyu. Number 2, Luo. Number 3, Kalenjin. Now, these are the top 3, depending on how you want to mix and gather them. I would say number 4 from there, we can say Kamba fairly, they also tend to vote in one direction. Now, when we get to the other big tribe, which is the Luya, they show some diversity in how they vote. So I will not necessarily put the Luya in that box. But these first 4 tribes, and then with the Kikuyu, we of course associate the Embu and the Meru, who for the most part will follow where the Kikuyu will vote. So these groups are the major groups that tend to vote in one direction. Because even at ukienda places like Masaini, yes, there's certain points when they tilt a certain direction, but you'll see some diversity in how they vote. So I think because these big communities that have a very big population in Kenya have been mobilized tribally, you know, like when it comes to politics, you find people who maybe are not even necessarily political leanings, but when it comes to politics, they feel like we need to support this side or we need to support that side. So that's why when a Matiang'i comes, without fail, it is Kisii ndo wanampokea. They're the ones who are organizing the town halls. They're the ones who are doing everything. When it's 𝑟𝒣𝒠𝒔 coming, it is the same thing. So sometimes it's so weird.
But
You know, sometimes, you know, ntapigiwa simu because sometimes people are looking for a token person who's not clearly from that group.
DEI.
Yeah, DI. Now hizo games, you know, like I no longer play. If I genuinely admire a leader for one reason or another, everybody knows I never hide it. I will show my support for them. And the one leader who I say maybe tried to do this slightly differently was Rao. But even when Rao used to come here, I had the experience of sometimes, you know, being given an elbow, like, Gathe, unafanya nini hapa? Hii ni space yetu. That's an experience because, I mean, of course, I was a very big Raila supporter in the 2017, the 2013, 2017, even 2022. So there were cases where, you know, like, we're not going to mention names, where, you know, like, people were being elbowed and even people were questioning, huyu anafanya nini hapa?
Ni mtu wa nje.
So that tendency has been there, and then there's also that shock that, okay, how come huyu yuko hapa na and is not one of us? And then the other shocker is when, you know, like, people who, for example, had associated me with supporting Raila, when they see me now take a different shift, they get shocked because they are used to having me in that box, that this is where you belong. And I think that's just part of the problem with Kenyan politics. Mika, you wanted to say something.
I wanted to say, the thing is, what you've said is very true, right? It's very true, like, you know, umepaka makeup. Let's not try to hide the negative connotations of tribalism that come out during politics, right? Because we know some people who we know that, like, unajua nini hata kisema watu wakikuwa wanafuata hivi mtu wangefuata Uhuru. There's that thing where, like, there was that thing, like, we can never vote for this guy no matter what happens. So there's that natural hatred that has been fostered over the years by the politicians and by people, and those, what do we call it? We have those stereotypes that have been assessed, and during political season, they come out very harshly and very wrongly. So we might say that those tribes, vile umejaribu kuipaka makeup hapo kasema hizo tribes zo voting as a block, but what makes them vote as a block when it comes to that voting point, right? And so we cannot assume that just because you're in America, that disease is not over here. Which actually over here, it's more. At some point you find people over here are more tribal than people back home. Until you wonder what is it that, like, why are you so vested and why are you so hateful in such a way?
Okay, now
we cannot walk away from tribalism as it is and try to make it into something fancy and say that that's a voting block. No, tribalism is hatred, come to racism.
Now, yes, the question of the day, so that we don't get lost, is previous town halls by Kenyan politicians. Have they had any meaningful impact, or are these glorified PR parades? And in relation to this is where I was asking, how come when politicians are coming here to the US in these diaspora town halls, it is almost without fail that it is their people who will be organizing? And this is the diaspora, you know, people have lived here for 20 years, 30 years, some even 40 years, and it is without fail, you know, like, it is not a coincidence. And I do credit some people are trying to look for DIs. I'm notoriously looked for in trying to diversify those groups, but there's a natural tendency for these groups being within the same community, and I think that's a question which we have to sit and ask ourselves as diaspora. Now, Washeke was saying here, Humphrey, stop being politically correct and just say that diasporans like holding, diasporans like holding on to tribal cocoons, even when our brothers and sisters at home are trying to move past that. Let's call a spade a spade. I think Udomaki wanted to say something.
No, I was going to respond to that.
Yeah.
I was going to say it is true that it so happens. And it's sometimes not... okay. Any function that you go, any function, if it's go to any function, and you find a majority, let's say Kikuyu, let's say, well, let me speak for self. Chances are, the people are gonna speak in Kikuyu, not knowing that they are other non-Kikuyu. So let's say, for example, it's a mashakaya or something, prayers or whatever. I have had to tell people, put somebody on the side and say, listen, not everyone understands Kikuyu. So please, either speak English or Swahili.
I had a nasty experience in Bimo.
So it just so happens, even the churches are tribal.
Yeah,
churches are tribal.
Yeah, that's always something very shocking.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's like a default setting to always gravitate to what you know.
But is that really what you know?
It's what you've been programmed.
Okay.
It's programming.
Okay.
It's what you've been programmed.
Okay.
So like now, for
No,
example,
I think what OneMic is struggling to say is this, that you gravitate back to community, right? Because when you come here, there usually is a community that you gravitate to, and most of the time those communities tend up either being tribal or end up being friendships that you made when you were young, people who you grew up with. And that is why you will find that mnaweza sema Jazi kuna Wakisi wengi, huku kuna Wakikuyu wengi, kuna nini, kwa sababu naambiwa niko na kazini yangu, niko na aunti yangu, niko na uncle yangu, anaishi pale. That aspect I get. On the social aspect, hiyo sikatai, hiyo nakubaliana nayo kabisa. But ikikuja kwa siasa,
I think that's
they're telling me nothing.
No, so for siasa, for us, and I think the turning point where it became quite apparent on the tribal line was after the post-election violence.
PV, yes.
Yeah, after that, it was pretty much everybody take a line of your tribe. That happened. Now back to Ali's question, when he says the handlers and the people who are getting everything together, I think that part of it is that it's driven by, okay, granted, we are hapo kwa tribal line already, which means that the bulk of the supporters are going to be coming from your community, but you also have to think of it that the Kenyan politicians always deal with trusted entities. So a lot of times, they are trusted entities, and people who they have around them in this trust,
it's going to be community,
are going to be watu wa community, watu wa tribe yao. A lot of times.
Of course.
And that is where I'm saying, when it comes to politics, I will not subscribe to the same thing, because it usually is taking advantage of that community that's there. Unaona? So you are going to I'm going to say ni kama tu vile si push ngoma hapa, right? We are tribal about it. Si push ngoma, but tukisema tuna push ngoma ya Kenya. Hiyo ngoma ya Kenya tukicheza hapa, tunachezanga unapologetically, and we push it unapologetically, and when we see a Kenyan, when we are around Kenyans, we push it to them unapologetically. Mpaka inaingia kwa kichwa yao, tuna influence. It's the same thing that happens when it comes to these political things, right? The community is there, it exists. So what do? The handlers, through a church, through something who has a voice over there, start pushing that narrative. The thing is that because of the communities, na tumekuja na tribal cocoons zetu, unfortunately, we do not know how to politics dirty when it comes to when tribe comes in. Lazima kuna ukabila uingie na ukabila kwa chafu yote ikifika kwa siasa. Hakuna ukabila safi, whether here or home. Unfortunately, right here, we have it more than back home.
Now, this is I think the problem with politics, Kenyan politics, is that the tribalism has been rewarded. Tribalism clearly has been rewarded. You know, like some of the most lethal tribal bigots, those are the ones who get elected. the ones who try to have a nationalistic look and a wide outlook or trend, they tend to lose. So I think that's also part of the reason why politicians resort to tribe, because when you look at someone like Cabinet Secretary Matiang'i, he wasn't even a politician by the time he was appointed to cabinet by Uhuru. But now that he's turning into this, he wants now to become a presidential candidate, you're clearly seeing that shift. You know, like he's going back to Kenya, and the first place where he's having a homecoming is in Kisii, and this guy wants to become a president. So I mean, I like what the kind of reset that was made by the Gen Z, but I'm still waiting to see results. I want to see results, because like even when us guys were young, you know, like, and we're coming in, the older millennials, and we're coming in, people are saying, okay, this is the generation that maybe might vote differently. But when the results came in, that was not the case. So I'm hoping, because you're already starting to see echoes of tribalism being thrown here and there. You're already starting to see that. You're already seeing those seeds of division being planted, and people being told that those people demonstrating are from this community. The people who are, yes, they're being called terrorists, they're being called all sorts of names. You're already seeing that to start happen, and unfortunately it is resonating. As if when you observe, you know, like social media, and even hear how people are talking, there are these two hashtags. There was the one that we are all Kikuyus that was trending, and I think it trended when the, you know, like government bloggers and people on the government side were trying to say it is this community that was bringing all the violence. They're the ones who are protesting, they're the ones who are looting, they're the ones who are doing everything. So that's when I think Gen Zs, I don't know who started that hashtag, but that's when I think Gen Zs came together and they were like, you know what, let's all say we are Kikuyus, and they started even giving themselves Kikuyu names, Kamau, Njoroge, or whatever names they were giving themselves. So that hashtag, it started trending big time. So I think when the government side saw this, they started pushing another hashtag which says we are all Kenyans. And nothing wrong with the hashtag, but I think this hashtag was brought directly in response to the one of we are Kikuyus, because they were trying to muffle it. Why are you saying we are Kikuyus? Why can't we say we are all Kenyans?
Let me see if I can play
You
this
know,
clip.
the thing is this. Uno, I'll give it to you now.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is this. We are having one of the most divisive president in this country right now, right? Because you cannot turn around and you signed an agreement with somebody, and you know that person brought you certain number of votes. That is why you signed that agreement with him. And halfway through that agreement, you decided that you don't want to work with this person anymore, and you threw them out. And you forgot that he wasn't just coming by himself, but he was coming with a certain number of people, and that is why you signed that agreement with him. So when that number of people turns on you, you don't turn around and label all those people as bad now because they've turned up against you. No, you started that and you alienated yourself from them. So when you say that Rigathi is being tribal because he holds his rallies in Central and all that, it was because you had stopped him from going out of Central. Every time he went out of Central, he was being attacked. People were hurting him. So he started doing rallies in Central where people won't attack him. He feels safe. So you can't blame him for that. He never stopped you guys to go to Central. And then Rigathi has continued going to other places of the country, and he's continued speaking against you. You cannot call him a tribal bigot because he's fighting you. Yes, he comes from a certain tribe. Yes, when he's speaking to his people, he will speak with that tribe. He will speak with that language. It doesn't make him tribal at all. And guess what? You know the person who's calling Rigathi tribal, when they make these calls, they don't make these calls outside of Kalenjin area. They make it when they are home, when they are safe, when they're within their people. If they really felt that Rigathi was that tribal, go make that statement in Central, in Nairobi, in Western, in other parts. Call him those names. Don't call him those names in Nyanza and Rift Valley, where you know you're safe. Call him out.
Okay.
So you are actually labeling somebody tribal by being that same tribal bigot. So this is part of the government of trying to cause a tribal unrest, and they're scared of going to an election.
And to boost,
it is evident. The guy cannot force the country to love him. People don't love him because you are horrible. You are tone deaf. You don't listen to what they tell you.
He's tone deaf.
You make excuses, and then you stand up and make a claim as a president. Hey, what? You ni patia mbele ya show, but what he said, what his Minister of Interior said, and what the chairman of Parliamentary Defense Committee said, those guys are not supposed to be in power if that's how you speak.
Okay,
this guy shows that this guy shows that he can do what Assad did to the people of Syria.
Okay, we're gonna get there.
To boost what Mika and I think Omosh said pertaining to instigating, like, and you, like, you're trying to infuse tribal stuff. This is the MP for Belgut. The one Mika is talking about, who is he sits in the committee for,
was it the
for defense.
𝐶𝐻, yeah. Let me see if it's going to work. Hold on.
Nani alikuambia sisi ndio tutakaa one term? Kibaki hakukaa one term, Uhuru hakukaa one term. Sisi umeona wakati imetufikia ndio sisi ni washenzi tukae one term. Tunapiga term mbili. Fululizo. Kama taifa la Kenya na kama jamii hatuwezi hata siku moja, na wasifikirie sisi ni waoga ati wanatupangia na sisi tumekaa hivi. Kama ni kupanga, wasifikirie hatuwezi kupanga. Ni vile tunapenda amani na wachunge hii amani sana.
Okay. That was Belgut, Member of Parliament.
And where was he saying this? Mika just pointed out.
At home.
Where was he saying this?
No, all of them speak at home. Even Sudi goes and speaks at home.
Okay.
If go call this person tribal somewhere else and see if those people agree with you.
All right. Now, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Lawrence Kihanya here is saying apparently Ruto has more support than the opposition if elections are held today. Either way, 2027 will be a chaos or lose. We don't lose for Kasongo. Those Lawrence Kihanya's polls. I don't know,
where you got those numbers from.
Yeah, I don't know where you got those numbers from, Baba Hanya. Please let us know where you got those numbers from.
From Hanya Institute.
Yes, and then 𝒂𝒆𝒄𝒉𝒆𝒔 says he missed some valuable lessons from Moi. When the ground became so hot, he would make concessions to cool the temperature. Loot all is unwilling to give even an inch. And we'd like to hear from Ruto supporters. Like every now and then we get people who tell us that we are one-sided.
If they are listening.
Yeah. If they're tuned in, like, feel free, comment, please call 202-683-4570. Please give us the perspective that we are missing, that we are not seeing. We'd love to hear from you. You're all Kenyans. See, muliweka your hashtag, we are all Kenyans.
No, we are all Kikuyus.
Yeah, so please give us a call, 202-683-4570. 4570. Press *5 to speak. So that's where we are, and I think back on the topic of politicians coming here for town halls, and unfortunately that conversation took a different turn. I think my own personal take, I think right now these visits, they don't matter. Like, politicians are using the US diaspora to boost their personal brands and not to build bridges or accountability. And that's my personal take. I am not saying
you don't think they also,
but also
when you say build your brands, does that mean money?
I mean build their brands is money, and also unajua ukienda huko nyumbani and people are seeing videos of you are talking to people in the Washington DC, outside near the White House.
It holds weight.
It holds weight. It holds weight.
Now and you
yes, especially if you're a member of parliament nini, na ndo watu wanatuma pesa, especially yuko on the ground and campaigning. And let's also be honest, diasporans haven't stepped up as real stakeholders in these town halls. We show up for selfies, but not strategy. And it's this
That's
thing, it is so notorious. Like when you look at how, you know, like when, for example, when you look at Matiang'i akilakiwa akifika airport, now Rigiji, I don't know. And I know, you know, like there's that excitement that's normally there. But this is one area where as diasporans, we need to come together and talk, whereby these people need to be looking for us, and they shouldn't be coming to us like celebrities. They should be coming with fear of they will be forced to be accountable.
Basically, one
done.
after job.
Yeah.
So this is you basically you're their boss. You're the one who's interviewing them.
But
now, hold on, Mika, for a quick second. Part of the problem is, and Ali, I hear what you're saying, but I think that the issue also is hapa kwa hawa gatekeepers. When it's time for you to come and put these people to task and ask questions, or you unauliza stories of policy, blah, blah, blah. First of all, your question is never there. If you get a chance to get the mic and you're talking or you're speaking something that is not, that starts leaning contrary to where everybody else or where his supporters want you to go, utachujwa. So
but
they control those narratives. So Mika, go ahead.
No, what I'm trying to say is this. What Aliyah said is true. But mnafaa kurealize wakikam huku, and the reason why they come here, right? Ni loose na influence. Hizi ma $10, $20, $20 mna contribute, mnatoa rivi, hiyo dope, it goes a long way. Especially during campaign time, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Alafu influence, right? Majority of diaspora people are breadwinners for their families. Na wanasikizwa. You know, you might think you're just speaking unongevi, but your influence goes a long way among your family. Unongevi. Na hiyo influence unajua ukiongea na watu wa home wanze kuongelesha waambie hivi na hivi na hivi hivi na hivi na hivi. Uta influence watu kadhaa. So that is why they like coming here. It's that money and that influence that you guys have. So
and to what Mika is saying.
So that is why kwa hizo meetings, you will never, as Omosha said, you will find that the conversation is usually going in a certain way. And Ali, they don't come as celebrities. Yes, people feel like nikawa, and that is what people feel like in these selfie moments, ni kenye umeuziwa.
Understood.
Wewe unajua unaenda kukana the next prezi huko. Do you know how you feel proud of yourself, like nilisalimia president na mkono mimi mtu wa kawaida tu hivi?
Yeah.
Mimi nimetoka Nyaribari huko, nimekuja niko America, nimekuja nikasalimia prezi hivi.
But you know, Mika, to add on what you're saying, I think because Nairobi is heavily represented in this panel of ours, we are all raised in Nairobi.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem, right? I think part of the problem that we don't realize as Nairobians, because the reality is the upper diaspora, you know, and I'm not saying this in any bad way, is that majority of people siwa Nairobi. Majority of people,
that is true.
Ni watu wa Ocha. And I think coming from there, there's always
or
that
outside
excitement.
Nairobi.
Yes, but there's always that excitement. There's always that excitement there's always that excitement of nimesalimia minister ama nimesalimia president. So I think the way us guys are looking at it and the way a lot of them are looking at it is very different. And I'm saying this in a very polite way, because for surely, like especially with the work that we've done here on the OneMic show, we have rubbed shoulders with almost all of the most senior government officials that have ever come to the US. And you know, like apart from a moment or two, it's never been a big thing that tukae hapo tupigwe picha na wao, but this is a big deal for a lot of people. So I think those are some of the things that we also need to learn, because there's also a very embarrassing meeting that happened in London, where the president was giving a speech, and instead of people asking for accountability, there was excitement. Kulikuwa na mama mwingine like, oh my goodness, can I have a handshake with you? I'm like, you have to, you're living in London, my dear. You know, like, this is not, you have to put these people on account.
And I think,
you know, like when they see you.
And here's the issue, I think because huyo mtu wa London, or maybe Wangeshi in Maloba, is it Malabo?
Malabo, not Wangeshi, Washeke.
Washeke huko Malabo.
Yeah.
Sometimes what's happening in Kenya, if you're not on the ground, you may not feel it. So that is one. So there's also a disconnect from what is happening. If you don't have family in Kenya going through, or if your family is well-to-do, chances are you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
You're not feeling it.
You're not feeling the heat.
You're not feeling the heat.
Yeah.
Right? But the people who are feeling the heat are the ones who are single-handedly having to pay for
school fees.
Shifsha.
Yeah.
Ama Taifa Care. School fees. Ama your
medical bills.
Medical bills.
Yeah.
Or mtoto amefukuzwa hana school fees. Capitation it has not been released. Teachers have not been paid, which means now you have to probably support a household, right? So when you're not in that frame of mind, you know, when you're not seeing that, there's no way, Ali, you're going to objectively ask questions about accountability when you're not feeling the heat.
No, that's true.
That's
fairly true.
But when you are like now, for example, you know, there are certain questions that there's also things like that are going to come up, especially if, let's say, for example, Matiang'i decides to run.
Yeah.
There are things that are going to come up, like during when he was
CS Interior.
CS Interior.
Yeah.
Those are swalis that people will be waiting to hear.
Okay.
And we're talking about not just like people will be waiting to hear.
Yeah.
So it's I think there is if you're disconnected and do not feel the heat, chances are you're not going to objectively approach even these officials and ask questions that you think that need to be addressed.
Now a number of comments are coming here. I can see Joyce Agunda Ocheng.
And we have a caller.
Oh, wow. Okay. Joyce Agunda Ocheng says, caller, we are going to pick up after I read the comments. Joyce Agunda Ocheng says, Rigathi Nai is tribal yawa. I can create 100 clip reel with the really tribal things that he said. Ukweli is the man has so much hate and said so many nasty things and did many bad things when he was in power that I will need a whole rehab to see him differently. Not an endorsement of the current guy. Okay, so that's a disclaimer from Joyce. And then Apa Babahanya says, let's do an analysis. Let's do an analysis. He has coasts. He has Kalenjin Nation. I think he's referring to the president. He has Northeastern and Coast Apo. I have a lot of doubts. He has Kalenjin Nation. He has Northeastern. Nairobi is 50-50. Luo Nation, Baba did the thing. Masai follows Baba, who is already 𝒂𝒒 box. That I would also call, to question. Kamba always shaky. Kamba is always very solid, actually. Abaluya Nation, Wetangula Mudavadi effect. Abaluya, hii analysis ya Babahanya. Hii analysis ya Babahanya, I don't know. Opposition is Mount Kenya and Kisii Nation. Nothing unless things change. And then Babahanya says, I hate Kasongo, but I'm worried we might end up having 10 years of this mess. And then Washeke says, to be honest, everyone is now feeling the pain because even those relatives who are self-sufficient and thriving now are crying for help. There's also a number of comments coming from YouTube. Jakarabondi, I am going to read your comments and we are going to do some analysis of them. We have a caller. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak.
3792. Thank you for calling the One Mic Show. Name and where you're calling from.
Welcome to the one-sided One Mic Show.
Caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling from. We cannot hear you.
Hello, caller.
Okay.
Uno,
are they
I
muted?
don't think they're muted.
Na mkono iko juu.
Okay.
Say the last number.
Yeah. Caller, can you hear us? Yeah, please tap.
I think they're trying to talk.
Yeah, type in the comments if maybe you're talking and we cannot hear you. We'll try to fix it on our side. Mubelwa Bandio, if you're tuned in, also try calling us in so that we can make sure that it's not something on our side. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. 4570. Press *5 to speak. Okay.
I had the wrong. Please call back.
Okay, caller, please call back. It was an issue on our board. Call back 202-683-4570. Press *5. Press *5 to speak. So caller, please call back. Yeah, caller. It was an issue on our side. Apa Jakrabondi is commenting on YouTube and he's saying, isn't it factual that the violence was mostly in the Mount Kenya area? Previously, when Kisumu was a hotbed of Mandamano, I never had any hashtags. Who is so special? What is so special about the mountain? Now, I do remember a hashtag of Luo Lives Matter. There was a hashtag, but yeah, I stand corrected. Jakrabondi says, Rigathi himself said, wale watu wa fujo na maandamano wasilete mambo yao huku kwa mlima. Wasn't that profiling? Okay, has a caller called again?
It's a different caller.
It's a different caller?
Yes.
Okay, again, number to call. Number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Let's go to the current caller.
5667. 5667. Thank you for calling the OneMic show.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Daniel from Boston.
Daniel from
karibu.
Boston, karibu sana. Talk to us. Tell us your thoughts about these conversations we're having and your views. Daniel, twende kasi.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think answering the question whether the town halls are useful, in my opinion, they are useful, because when those politicians come to the U.S., the average Kenyan here has far better access to ask them those deep questions that the average Kenyan in Kenya will never not be able to ask.
True.
I have seen now whether the interaction yields any fruit, that's a different question. That's a different matter. But my point is, you are able to hold them to account much more than someone in Kenya. A good question is this: if you have a clip of Gachagua or Ruto or whoever doing or saying something you disagree with, and I'm sure there is plenty of that, you can go to Seattle or Boston and stand up, you can play the clip, and you can ask them what they meant. And you can ask a follow-up question. If you're in Kenya, surely you would never ever get that chance. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, that is a very fair comment. That's a very fair comment that Daniel has brought up. And one truth, because we've attended a lot of these town halls, one truth is that we definitely have much better access than someone in Kenya. Now, where I think we're going to disagree a bit, Daniel, is the fact that you can stand up, play a clip, and ask a follow-up question. We know the format of these meetings. It's usually 90%, like, in fact, before they speak, there's like 2,700 people who are doing the introductions and so and so and this. So 90%, it's people speaking, and then the politician will have, like his 10-15 minutes of fame, and then they like maybe 3 or 4 people in a town hall that sometimes even maybe might have 100, 150, or maybe even 200 people. They'll be like 2 people, and those are vetted questions. So my thing is that if these town halls are going to mean anything, they need a total full reset. It needs to be reversed, rather than these politicians taking 90% of the time of their fans speaking and them speaking. It needs to be the very opposite. They need to have 10% and the crowd have 90%. They must be restructured to include, first of all.
Can I ask?
Yeah, ngoja kidogo. They must be restructured, first of all, to include public participation, whereby we are not just getting texts and flyers, or there will be a meeting on X day, when there was no public participation in deciding how the structure of the meeting will be, or involving the community in the meeting, and also deciding, like on the tough questions beforehand, collecting these questions. Otherwise, they'll remain to be glorified PR parades in suits. Daniel, back to you.
Let me say something here.
Yeah.
I have attended town halls. The first one I did was Saitoti when he was VP. He came to Boston.
What year was that?
And he spoke at the church, and this was around maybe 2002. I don't remember. It's a long time when he was VP.
Okay.
I also attended one for Kalonzo when he was VP also.
Okay.
Now, in those 2 events, now I am aware when Uhuru was here, or when the president himself is here, it's actually very, very difficult, and the atmosphere is very controlled. But in my experience, for those two events, I also attended another public meeting with 𝒂𝒂𝒂 when 𝒂𝒂𝒂 was president. So that tells you how long ago that was. When he was a minister, when he was a big guy.
'90s. That's '90s.
That was 88.
When no, it was 2000.
No,
I think he was retired. Anyway,
𝒂𝒂𝒂 was not minister in 2000.
I think
𝒂𝒂𝒂
no, he was
in the 90s.
before he left politics, Kabisa.
That was
Anyway,
90s.
my point is this.
Yeah.
For those two events where the Saitoti was VP and when Kalonzo was VP, I was there myself, and in my experience, there was ample opportunity to ask them questions. There was nobody filtering what you're saying. There was no rush. You know, you have to answer within 2 seconds. We have to ask within 2 seconds, and then you drop your mic and you have to go. No, there was a very good opportunity to ask deep questions, and people did ask deep questions, and then also do a follow-up. But I am aware of what you're saying, especially the more senior the politician, like the president himself. The atmosphere is highly, highly orchestrated. My point here is that it is not always like that. There are many times where you do not have that stringent control over who speaks, how long you speak, and someone to pre-filter what you're going to say. No. I was actually amazed when Saitoti came because he took questions without any having the questions vetted, and he answered them right there, every single one of the questions, and some of the questions were very good. It's a long time, so I don't remember all the questions, but they were very good questions. And my point is, those are questions a Kenyan in Kenya will never ever get a chance to ask.
Okay. Fair enough.
Thank you, Daniel.
So Goja, before Daniel goes,
and we have another question.
Yeah, 𝒂𝒂𝒂, we are going to come to you, caller. Yeah, we're going to come to you, caller. But 𝒂𝒂𝒂 was asking Daniel, can you ask him to elaborate how we are able to make them accountable when they're here? And I think Daniel had alluded to this before, where he said we can ask these questions, but he cannot verify if there's any fruits. Even when you've asked the questions,
correct,
there's no verification whether there's any
fruit
out of those questions asked. Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Good, very good. I'll give you an example of a question, because let me tell you, there are many questions that the media in Kenya will never ask.
Yes.
For whatever reason. You and I know there are topics the media in Kenya will never ever get into.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example. Ruto himself is on record talking about Kikuyus. He is on record on video. So that is a topic that is one of those that the media in Kenya will never hold him to account. The average person in Kenya will never ever be able to ask that question. So if you were to meet him here, you could ask him, you could actually play that clip and ask him what he meant. Now, I understand that there's a limit, obviously, there's a limit how much you can hold him to account. Of course there is. There is actually nothing you can do other than engaging him in that Q&A. But my point is, what you're doing there is something that any other person in Kenya will never be able to do.
No, that's a fair assessment. Yeah. And Daniel Karanja, karibu sana. Now, are you gonna be there kumlaki Rigiji akifika Boston, ama wewe you'll be there for accountability purposes?
Completely for accountability and to hold him to account. For example, when he was in government, you can ask him, or I would like to ask him, and I would try to get a chance to ask him about his awareness of all that happened, and many other things that have never come to light. For example, I'll ask him, who owns 𝒒𝒐𝒍𝒊? That's never been asked. It has never been followed up properly. I want to ask him who owns 𝒒𝒐𝒍𝒊, who really owns it.
Okay.
Because it's not owned fully by the government, no.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's a contracted service.
Okay,
thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, we'll be banking on you, Daniel. Very, very good contribution from Daniel.
You know, I like what Daniel is saying about the people who came and when he interacted with them.
And we have another caller.
But then what you have to realize about those times that he was saying those things that he was saying, there was no vetting then.
Yeah.
And people never used to participate like that. But if you also realize they had gone to Boston, there's a reason why they went to Boston. Think about it. And there's a reason why I'm saying all of that, because even now, where uliona, you have seen how these things happen.
Yes.
If even to get your question in, there's a time when you're even cut off.
Yeah.
As to when they're like, send your questions in by day X.
I remember when Uhuru was here, there were actually people I did not know who were assigned to make sure I do not ask a question. That was back in 2014. When he was giving a speech at the Marriott. That's just how bad these meetings are.
Ile kina nani walikuja na Kirubi and all of them.
Yes, that's just how bad these meetings are. Yeah, yes, so yeah, but another thing also, most from what Daniel said, and Kola, we are coming to you, just stay put. Another thing based on what Daniel has said, can you agree that maybe you might have been inactive politically?
No.
He has mentioned, no, wait a minute. He has mentioned a 𝒣𝒐𝒊𝒕 town hall. Because remember 𝒣𝒐𝒊𝒕, No, I mean, I don't know.
In
I don't
Boston.
know exactly.
He said, yeah,
it was in Boston.
𝒣𝒐𝒊𝒕 in Boston.
𝒣𝒐𝒊𝒕 and
he says
and
Magugu in Boston.
Oh, so that was all in
Yes,
Boston.
all of these are in Boston.
Okay.
Ndio ndo kwambia kuna kokokun.
Okay.
There's a reason why
Okay.
these things are being done
Okay.
mahali zinafanywa.
Check him,
good
check him.
response. Good response. Good
Check him,
response.
check him,
Yeah,
check him.
yeah. I was making sure.
I got you. I got you, my friend. I got you.
3792. Thank you for calling the One Mic Show. Now I think we can hear you loud and clear. 3792.
Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Name and where you're calling from.
My name is Mutai, calling from the beautiful skies of Prince George's County. One mic, watch out for finger the keyboard. I'm trying to call input.
Tuheshimiane.
Ukuje na pingu. Kuja na pingu.
Don't worry, Mutai, he owes you mbuzi.
Where?
I know he owes me a lot. He owes me son. Anyway, I was going to comment. I was going to say, a lot of times these politicians come here from Kenya, and good diaspora people who are here. Oh, a lot of them really go to these functions because they want a connection. They want something. It's something that they want. They're looking for something. They want a connection to something. They want to make a meeting, go from here, and then maybe nikikuja home, is there a katenda here, unaweza kunirushia? Is there something I can get from my folks here, a kazi there? Everybody's looking for a connection. So you'll never really get in the diaspora here somebody holding any politician accountable for anything. Hayo tu.
Okay.
That's a different take.
Mutai, asante sana.
Utawacha kuongea juu ya my fingers.
Are you planning to attend any of the town halls? 𝒔𝒑𝒂 might be coming in the DMV. Matiang'i already has a town hall planned. Are you planning to come to get a connection?
Is Martha coming back?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've attended these town halls. I attended Raila's. I attended Ruto's. Who else have I attended? I attended Uhuru's before. I think they're all the same. You attend one, you attend many. I don't know if I'll go to 𝒔𝒑𝒂. I don't think so, but.
Why? Is it because you're going to be busy, or is it because you see no value? Why is it that you're not attending?
Or your last name betrays you?
You had to go there.
I'm just saying, pole. So ni jasa zingine mtu uliza tu.
Okay, ni sawa.
Haya, Mutai, ignore Mosh.
Lakini if I have time and I'm free, we can go. I'll go. I don't have an issue going.
Okay. Haya,
sawa Mutai.
Mutai, asante sana again. Wow,
and my fat fingers are about to block you.
Wow.
Okay, all right. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Conversations heating up. Daniel Karanja, I think, who had just spoken on YouTube, said the town halls are a good place to point out any problems with the politicians. After all, when you attend the event in the USA, you have an opportunity to ask these questions, and regular person doesn't. Mika, you had something you were saying before we move on from this topic. Mika.
Actually, my thought escaped from me.
Okay. Aya, Washeke anasema Boston ni friendly grounds. And then Washeke father says, thank you, Mutai. Now we are calling a spade and not a big spoon. And also Seattle, Washington, that has become a stronghold. It has become a friendly ground.
It has become.
It
is.
Interestingly, it never was.
It never was. But I think over the last 5 years,
I'd say the last 2 election cycles.
Yes, there's been a lot of stronghold tendencies.
But also, you also have to understand that it is a haven, especially
like a sanctuary.
Yeah, because
a sanctuary state.
Easy mavitu hazijaiva easy.
Yeah.
Nyinyi mnajua
Because when you
Federal
think about it,
Okay.
Ngoja. Mnajua president wa Federal Way.
Federal Way, yeah.
Federal.
Federal.
Wewe
Federal Way.
sikia vile anasema Federal Way.
Yeah.
Federal Way, tushaisikia.
Federal.
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 Sasa kama unajua Federal Way, unajua mbona hiyo ni stronghold.
Okay. Yeah, so
Ni kama roho.
yeah, but you see also part of the reason is because for a while that place again it has become sanctuary.
okay.
Because watu wengi wakikuja, a place where, you know, like we're having this discussion in another group about getting a driving license. The dispute was that I said that in order for you to get a real ID, you need to prove that you're legal.
Yeah,
correct.
It's that simple.
You have to show
You have to show documentation
your,
that you are
your citizenship or
yes.
your.
So in Maryland, up until now, I think you can still if you don't have, if you're undocumented,
Maryland gives both.
You can get a DL,
but you can't fly with it.
but you can't fly with it. You
Yeah.
can't go into a federal building, but you can still drive.
You can still drive.
Another
yeah.
place that people used to go that you could even get a social or can still get, I don't know if it has changed, is Seattle. Federal.
Okay.
Yes. So
All
that is
right.
why sasa unaona watu wengi
now Skylar,
unamwaga mtama na unajua hao
kweli
wase
wanajua hivyo.
Skylar Roberts is reminding us that we're getting out of topic. Na hiyo ni kweli. Washeke says thank you Mutai, you're calling. I think I read that comment. And then Washeke says Seattle ni wa Munyoro offshore office. Now I want to move on because you know, like, and feel free to comment if you still have something to say about this topic. We're gonna talk about it. But moving on, what do you call it when people show up for a protest but a government sends goons to disrupt it? Now Sabasaba earlier this week predictably turned out to be another day of death and bloodshed where cries of justice were drowned by paid chaos. Now this year Sabasaba protests like the Gen Z revolt commemoration 2 weeks ago were hijacked by shadow tactics, state-linked saboteurs aka goons, and a recycled Youth for Kanu 92 playbook, all deployed against a relentless Gen Z movement with no funding. Now tonight we ask, are protests still the way to go, or have they become a death trap? And is Raila's intergenerational national conclave a bridge to a solution or a plot to buy our time prior to elections 2027? Now, ladies and gents, once again, I want us to go beyond the headlines to analyze the impact of what's really happening. Please start typing in the comment section below what you think, given the death and carnage that these protests have been causing. Should Gen Z change the tactic of protests to avoid the death traps, or should they keep up the pressure? Now, I'm going to start with you, Mika, because of your pulse with young people back home in the ground. Now, some quarters of older millennials and Xers are saying Gen Z needs to pause and recalibrate because of course, of a lot of deaths, abductions, and all these crazy things that are being perpetrated by the state. Now, Mika, do you feel like the state-sponsored goonism is emotionally exhausting Gen Zs from protests, or is it fueling the fire in them even more? Mika, twende kazi.
And Lawrence better be on cue to call.
It's fueling them even more, because the thing is this, you know, millennials are speaking from a point of privilege. Millennials have a job. Millennials have a source of income. Millennials are living. You might not be rich, but you're living comfortably. You can afford to go. Gen Z akiamka kila siku asubuhi ajui siku yake itaishaje kesho. Hana mbele wala nyuma, yuko tu, na akiangalia hivi anaona vile politician anaendelea kuiba pesa ya serikali yao. Like, they understand, they're educated, they know. We see KRA announcing that it has collected the highest number of revenue ever in history, but they don't see where that revenue is going. Every day something, every time there's news, there's something wrong, there's something going bad, but then we see opulence being spread all over. They are tired. You cannot tell somebody who is tired to lia sasa. The same way the generation ya kina Murila, kina when university students who joined up with politicians and pushed for multi-party elections, walikuwa wamechoka pia hiyo time yao, right? They were young, they were energetic, they were vibrant, they had the energy to go to the streets. A lot of them died, but they got what they wanted. So you being in a point of privilege right now, hawezi ambia mse mwenye anamka ghetto ana miaka 22 anamka hivi anasikia njaa akiangalia mama yake hivi, mama yake ana watoto wengine 5 wa kufeed, yakitoka hivi hata hezi enda inda juu inda pia hakuna job hakuna nini, anafikiria hivi, alafu namwambia tia tulia arudi akae angoje. Hamtasikizana, heri akakufa huko nje akipigania nini yake, because at the end of the day when you kill him you've ended his misery. If he takes you out of your seat, he's ending his misery. Either way anaachieve goal yake. So we need to stop this thing of telling them that you're doing wrong while you can see what the wrong is happening. Sabasaba aliyo umesema kulikuwa na demonstration. Who demonstrated during Sabasaba? Ilikuwa goons na polisi. Watu walibaki home. People were being followed in their houses. People were being, like, kulikuwa na video za goons wakiingia kwa maploti wanaenda kutoa watu kwa manyumba wanawapiga. People didn't go to the streets, walijifungia tao wakaeka babdo yate wakafunga barabara, walifuata watu kwa estates. And they shot people in the estates. People are just okay. So you cannot come and say that because you've created violence, you expected people to come out. People didn't come out. People stayed home and you followed them. Ukenda kuulioko. Then you come and say that Gen Z wanna demonstrate. Na wewe ndio umeenda kuwaua. Already your Minister of Interior has already said before that shoot to kill. And then you come and try to minimize it to say shoot to maim. But then your parliamentary chairman of security parliamentary committee anasema shoot to kill. Let's be honest, if violence is the only way that you think that you can earn respect from these young people, it's not going to happen.
Okay, now on that point of shoot to kill, a book on a clip up we want to play. We want you to hear. Okay, let's cue up that clip.
Jana umesema na mimi nataka niseme na nishukuru Rais William Samoei Ruto. Wakati jana umesema shoot but do not kill. I want to repeat it here. In fact, shoot and kill. You cannot have someone coming after your life and you do not want to shoot and kill. You cannot have someone who is going to terrorize you and your family and you are telling me you cannot shoot and kill. You cannot have someone who is coming after your businesses armed and with weapons and you want to tell me that you cannot use shoot and kill.
Now, who was that again who's saying that?
That 𝒂𝒄𝒉𝒆𝒔,
a member of parliament.
Yeah,
yes, the 𝒊𝒈𝒄𝒂 guy.
Who is part
who
of
is
that?
the chair of the defense committee.
He's in the committee
in parliament.
He's
He's in the committee.
He's in that committee. I don't know.
Okay.
He's the chair.
He's the chair.
He's
Okay.
the chair of the
He's
committee.
chair.
And
he was saying this in a public rally. Even worse,
at home, wow. But yes.
even worse,
yes,
people were cheering.
Women especially.
No, but did you notice when he was saying shoot to kill, kuna wale waliingia na yeye ni kama walijua kitu ile anaenda kusema.
Yeah, because it's like they were getting ready.
Yes.
You know, like it's like they were getting ready and the people were cheering.
So let's be honest.
Yeah.
Hizi crowds zilikuwa zimelipiwa na zikapelekwa hapo. We are saying we know how politics works. Watu wanakuanga hapo mbele wameshout wengi kwa wamelipwa. Watu wa kawaida kwa mbalimbali kwa nangoja 50, like we've seen this firsthand vile ina happen. Right? If you are a young man, especially sisi watu tuligro Nairobi na penye tulisomea Nairobi, we've seen this. If you went to campus in Kenya like I did, you've seen this. Because sisi tulikuwa tunachukuliwa tunalipwa muende kwa hizo vitu. So we know how it works. So aside from that, most of political speeches are designed not even for the crowd there. They're designed for TV. They're designed for media.
That's very interesting.
Right?
That's our MP. So
yeah.
When it's designed for media, mtacheka hapo mseme crowd iseme hivi. Guess what? Do you know how many people have heard that na wakasikia vile crowd imenini hivi na wakasema yes, ni ukweli, shoot to kill.
So you see, I think we are treading on very dangerous waters with our politicians, and I think what happens is when politicians are unable to deliver what their people voted them in to do, these are now the tactics they resort to. So now we're in the month of, we're approaching to the month of August. And what is the month of August in 2027? It's elections. So I think, you know, like there's no more hiding. Campaigning is high gear. Kenya is always in a cycle of campaign, but now, you know, like there's clarity, there's no more working. It's all about politics. 𝒒𝒑𝒆𝒄𝒉𝒆𝒔 is saying the conclave is a ploy to buy time and opportunity for government to regroup and come back fighting even dirtier. When have these commissions ever worked? From the TJRC to the Akiwumi, conclaves, aka commissions, is where accountability dies in Kenya. There is a graveyard full of commissions set up by independents, and that's why I'm in agreement with 𝒒𝒑𝒆𝒄𝒉𝒆𝒔. You know, like Baba, you know, like and you know, like when I talk to Baba, to me it is very painful because I have supported him for a very long time. I'm gonna be honest with you, people next to you are not telling you. No one, you know, like this idea, especially coming from you, no one is gonna listen to you. No one under the age of, let me say, under the age of 35 will give any credence to what you say. I am just being honest with you. Maybe it's true we need to have a national dialogue. Maybe we need to have, you know, like a process similar to Bomas to iron out the differences we have. But Baba, this cannot come from you this time because people are just not gonna listen to you. You know, like from the moment you joined Kasongo, that was it for a lot of people.
It was a wrap.
Yes, that was a wrap for a lot of people, and I'm being very honest with you because you know, like I've been one of Baba's diehard supporters for a very long time. So this is very painful to us, especially. It's very painful to us, and I do understand, you know, like there's still a lot of people who have stuck with Baba. I personally have an understanding, you know, and I have an empathy to why they're doing this because there are so many great things that Baba has done. But I think what he's done from when the Gen Z revolt kicked in and when he signed that blood deal with Ruto, that was so consequential, and unfortunately, this is and this is history sometimes is very ugly. You will be remembered by some of these recent things that you did, and it will make all the great things that you did were forgotten. Baba, you still have an opportunity. You know, you still have an opportunity of saying, pole, you know, makosa ilifanyika. You know, because right now, Baba is holding so many cards because should Baba exit from supporting Ruto, the government is collapsing like Amalinze the cat. Uno mic.
Wa? Yani kuna watu walifanya literature.
Yeah. Let me play one final clip here. Because just to piggyback and to talk about, I think what Mika addressed, like, you know, after Sabasaba, what happened, you know, again, Mika said it. Ruto is very tone deaf. He just doesn't get it. Hanyiti, yeah. like you know, he just doesn't get it.
He hasn't had to get it.
Let's
go ahead.
President, nobody wants to throw you. Nobody wants to overthrow your government.
So now this is just to provide context, but you can get this clip like online. This is where he was talking. He was addressing. It was during the housing.
This is Rigathi.
But he was addressing Ruto's sentiment. What Ruto said about the attempt. So whatever was going on, the Gen Z, Sabasaba, whatever was an attempted coup, overthrow the government. I mean, there's so many questions that you can ask because
I have to throw you off. Yeah.
Like okay, somebody has attempted. What happened to Ochuka when he tried to overthrow the government?
No, he was Malaysian.
It was Malaysian, right? Yeah. Like there's anyone who has tried
treason and then
anyone who has
treason and then
anyone who has ever done that or attempted to do that, wanafanywa nini? Wanakamatwa.
The only chap who had was Njonjo.
Sabasaba. What date is it today? It's the 11th.
Yeah.
It's 4 days later.
Yes.
Any arrest or people who are trying to attempt the coup?
Zero.
This guy. Anyway,
we don't even have one person who was nothing.
But of course,
no suspects.
I think he was trying to insinuate that there was a guy who was trying to to instigate. But let's hear.
Nobody wants you out of power through unconstitutional means. Mr. President, I and the people we work with are on record. We want to remove you from State House through the ballot in 2027. Please relax. We want you to serve your one term. Nobody wants you out of government, and constitutionally, nobody has any plan to overthrow your administration, Mr. President. The leaders in this country, and indeed 95% of the Kenyan population, want to humiliate you at the ballot. They all relish that moment.
Okay, that was Rigathi Gachagua. I mean, and of course, he's in Seattle, Washington. He just jetted in. He will be meeting diaspora. And Scala Robert says Kenyans don't want a Sudan type of Bashir scenario by the youth, but enough is enough. What I like about the Kenyan youth is that, first of all, they are not familiar with the independence, the Lancaster Constitution. Their default setting is the 2010 Constitution. So that's where their mind is framed, that's where their mind is structured. And I think that's why they look at things differently, because most of us had a taste of that old constitution, and that's why we're very tolerable to certain things happening that were allowed, you know, like by the previous constitution, but that are not allowable with this new constitution. And this talk of a conclave, why are we having a conclave when what we have right now, we are not following the rules of what we have right now? So if we have this conclave and then create a new set of rules, we are creating a new set of rules again that again we are not gonna follow.
That will be disobeyed.
Has the NADCO report been implemented?
So the NADCO report, I think part of they're saying part of it has
pieces.
For example, IBC now has finally been sworn in.
That's part
you
of
know.
NADCO.
So we finally have an IBC, but then there was of course question about how the appointments
and
were made
that
and
one has
everything.
been,
But as of right now, the IBC commissioners have been set in. So that's the other chapter. And I think nothing that's happening is coincidence. With Baba announcing a conclave is because they know IBC has already been set. So now they're trying to trigger a political event. I'm going to use financial terms. Unajua, like if you have an investment account, Fidelity, Vanguard, sometimes when you're trying to move money, so unajua when pesa umeishiwa, you know, like Kevin Hart talks about when you're trying to move your money from savings to checking and checking
from
to savings
to my checking to my savings.
Yeah, naitoshani. So sometimes when you're trying to move your money from an investment account, depending on what kind of investment account it is, sometimes you'll get a very big message saying this is a taxable event. You know, a taxable event means that if you move this money, Uncle Sam might come and claim a certain percentage of that money. So now, I think this is what this government is trying to trigger. They're trying to trigger a political event, because political events is where people reset. What's a political event? A referendum. You know, like a conclave. You know, these are political events because the conclave is gonna end up in a referendum. Remember the banana referendum that happened, the orange banana referendum that brought the Orange Democratic Movement. That was a political event that reset things because Kibaki was also experiencing certain issues within his own cabinet. 2010, we had another political event which resulted in the new constitution. So besides the elections that come every 5 years, since 2010, we've not had a political event. So now they're trying to trigger this because it will give them an opportunity.
A successful political event.
Yeah, they're trying to trigger it because it will give them an opportunity to recalibrate before 2027. Because the way things are right now, if things move in the same formation, even if 10 other people run, there's no way Kasongo is getting 50% plus one with the way things are set up currently. And I think that's just what's happening and what they're trying to see, what they're trying to do. And that's the reason why I'm telling you, Baba, like no one is gonna listen to you, especially these young cats we're talking to, Kina Sheila, who we hosted last week, Sheila and Joy. Are you telling me, I haven't asked them about this, but do you think Sheila and Joy are gonna be like, yeah, Baba, we want a conclave, No. They're not gonna be rejoicing. Yeah.
And by the way, when you're talking about 50 plus 1, I think you are countering what Lawrence Kihanya was saying.
Jakarabondi
No, Jakarabondi, but I'm talking about Lawrence Kihanya and his numbers.
Yeah, Lawrence, I think, is living with the fear that these guys can do a lot of things in order to win an election. They can steal. There are so many things that they can do, and I think right now they're in the process of trying to think of what they're going to do. Again, the number to call, 202-683-4570, press star 5 to speak.
Has not commented.
I can see Luis
Lakini Lawrence alikuwa mtu wa Ruto.
No, he was never.
No, he was not.
Never,
He was not,
never,
actually.
never ever.
He actually was
never
not.
Ever,
No.
never ever. Yeah, alikuwa ni mtu wa Uhuru, but he was never mtu wa Ruto.
No.
I can see Luis Muya is tuned in,
Ruto,
and Kathy Gitai all the way from California. Please drop your comments. Let us know what you think. A couple of comments also coming on YouTube. Jakarabondi anasema protest should be a last resort for after trying all other ways to effect change. Have these Gen Zs really exhausted all legal options? That's a question from
That's
Jakarabondi.
interesting. The legal option that was there was IBC, which was not there. Now IBC is there.
Yes, and then I can see here Bossman saying dialogue ni story ya jaba. It's foolish to even think so. And then I can also see Apa Njeri Kiare karibu sana on YouTube. Njeri saying, I think it's absurd to claim that the mass protests seen nearly in every county are limited only to one demographic of Kenyan. Ni half term kila mahali na akienda sana ni one term now. Something that I wanted to comment regarding the hashtag that we are all Kikuyus versus we are all Kenyans. Now, this is we're in a very interesting juxtaposition, and there was a genuine sentiment that was brought by people, you know, like when Mandamano had been attributed to Luos, and we clearly know from now what's happening now that a lot of this chaos is usually orchestrated by government goons so that a certain group can be labeled as violent, as looters and everything. So for a long time, Luos had that tag. And I'll be very honest, you know, like a lot of people now who are on this other side were very happy to tag Luo as violent people, as people who like chaos and people who like looting. So the same gymnastics that was being played by the government then when they were looking to tag Luos is currently what's happening in Kikuyu country. And now it's Kikuyus who are being tagged as the people who are violent, who are burning supermarkets, who are looting. And we all know that this is orchestrated, but I think that moment has come where now people on this other side are realizing, enyewe, you know, when we're saying this about Luos, this is exactly what was being done.
Divide and conquer.
Yes. So I think it's the same sentiment. Yeah, I think it was Tabitha who was telling us that if you put red and black ants in a jar and just leave them, they will get along. Fine. But if you start shaking the jar, they will start fighting and killing each other.
Na hiyo ndo shida ukabila. Unajua shida ukabila yenye nilikuwa nasema, shida ukabila ni your stereotypes that they teach you about people and you assume. The thing is, it's unajua nika hapo America, right? Hapo America right now, you see they are stealing from the poorest white people, but as much as they've told that person that we're chasing our immigrants who are worse off than you, and I feel better, aoni shida yake. The same thing with Kenyans. Luos were called violent, merchants of violence, wanajua tu vita, wanarushanga tu mawe. Majaluo na mawe walikuwa na recognizewa kama kitu same. Sasa watu waamini Wakikuyu pia wanajua kurusha mawe. That's the funny thing. Unaona? Ni wameri. Mawe ni constant bana, ni universal, kila mtu anajua kurusha, haina kabila. Haina kabila. Right? So the same playbook that was being done is what is being done. Now what people need to realize is that you can protest and there are ways whereby goons ni waoga. Goons ukuja na moto bakini ni waoga. Ni waoga. You stand up to them ni waoga watahema. Uko waoga. Wanakuwa wamelewa na wako mabangi za hiyo. Na vitu zenye wametumia. Wanakuwa waoga. But even despite that, without even violence, right? The protests are the people who are frustrated. and 𝒂𝒒𝒂𝒂𝒂. If you really feel that you are worthy to it, let them start getting registered to vote. Don't purge any voter registries, and let us meet in the ballot and see. But I don't believe there's any politician that's brave enough to put himself in the ballot race and go against our.
There's a fear of the ballot right now by politicians.
You know what is interesting? Mika has said something I believe is going to happen. I just don't know when they're going to try to pull this off. And we've had these conversations before about the voter roll. I suspect. What did they tell us when we were asking about the voter roll? Is it every 12 years, or what's the? Is it a law, or is it
every 10 years? It's purged or something like that.
So I think first of all, every 12 years there needs to be a reset of the boundaries. IBC. So it was supposed to do this. It's already overdue. It was supposed to be done before 2022. I think it's usually anywhere between 8. Is it 8 to 12, or it's something like that?
Yes.
Boundaries have to be reset, and then I think also the voter rolls have to be reset,
purged,
to make sure that you don't have dead people who are still sitting
and
there.
Don't they do that every general election? Or is it every other general, meaning every 8 years or something?
So I think we need to confirm and check to see what frequency they do that in. But that was supposed to happen. It also didn't happen. So the current roll, which I think was set before the 2013 election, I think that this has been this current role has a lot of dead people, because when you think this has been sitting since 2010, so think about all the people who've died since then, and there's been no reset. So I think that is going to be the next minefield, because they will try to control it. They usually try to win elections by controlling those voter rolls.
Yes.
But I think if people come out and overwhelmingly register, then it will be difficult, because elections that are stolen are elections that are close. When we have a situation on a come election year 2002, why it was very difficult to steal the 2002 election is because it was an overwhelming victory. I think Kibaki won by close to 60%. So you need that kind of victory to be able to make sure that this election is not going to be stolen.
I'll say this. And this is, by the way, Lawrence over here says, Jimmy Okangi says, these Raila dialogues have always worked when the sitting president is one that listens. And that is not a cup of tea for one-term Ruto, because he won't listen.
Interesting.
Lawrence says, Ali is 100%. Ruto will do everything to stay in power, and that's his point. But I'll say, let me say this. I think, so IBC now is constituted.
Yes.
There's still something. I think the High Court passed something where that right now I'm talking about.
It was a technicality.
All they have to do is just
gazettement.
They just have to issue a gazettement. That's it.
Yeah.
With the current Gen Z.
Yes.
And I was having this, and maybe this is something else, because Lawrence was always talking about that there has to be a leader. Somebody has to navigate, has to come forward to sort of navigate Gen Z. Anyway, that's up for discussion. We can discuss this. But pertaining to 2027, this is what I foresee. I foresee mobilization by Gen Zs to man all polling stations.
Yes.
And I think Justice Maraga's ruling when he nullified the 2017 election.
Yes.
Where, and the cry has always been that the results that come from the polling station are final, right?
Yes.
Because that's where you tally now. You tally.
Hakuna mambo ya bomas.
Hakuna mambo ya bomas. Any Gen Zs are going to man all polling stations.
Yeah. So media can even call.
Media can call. So everyone will be there. You know, like last election night, we were hearing stories that they're starting polling stations. There was nobody there. So whatever could have happened, mix them, gather them, mashakura. But this time, Gen Zs are going to man all polling stations. That is my prediction.
Physically and electronically.
Yes.
Now, so do you think that they will use I guess the trump card? I'm calling it a trump card because hey, that's aging myself. Jeez. Do you think they're going to use that ace in the hole of basically calling IBC to throw people out.
Throw people out of where?
What do you mean?
Like, you know, constitutionally via IBC. You know, like now that IBC is now constituted.
Like you're talking candidates?
Yes.
Or
yes,
or
like
you're talking
go out-
about recalling
recalls,
MPs?
yes.
Yes. So I think
Because that is an actual legit legal way you can do it. But
Actually,
we did,
no,
but we
because
did not have an IBC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's a time there was a discussion about recalls.
Yeah.
And there was a political activist in Kikuyu. What they were trying to do, they were trying to recall an MP. But they could not because IEBC
was not constituted.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are certain places that have not had representation because IEBC was not constituted.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah,
22.
multiple
Since 20
constituencies.
multiple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Northeastern.
Yes.
Now, Ule
There's
Jama, that guy
Northeastern-
who passed, did he
Yeah.
pass away the same year? He
There's,
didn't
multi-
even-
there's
I don't
multiple
even think it was-
constituencies, and then
Yeah.
even civic seats.
Uh-huh.
There's multiple.
nyingi.
Ziko nyingi tu sana.
So now, again, it's a matter of now executing because now it's IBC is constituted. It's a matter of, because you remember, I think we had this discussion where, in order to recall, there has to be a certain number of signatures that you get
Yes.
that have to be. It cannot be just from Omoshe's house.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get if the conclave of Omosh, Ali, Mika, Washeke, OneMic, Lawrence, whatever. There has to be an almost equal representation of signatures from all those that let's say
Areas.
form
Yes.
form that constituent. Then that way, IBC verifies. Recall is the recall process.
By the way,
started.
once this recall process opens, it will be floodgates because
Yes, it is floodgates.
It is serious floodgates, and I think number one on that list will be Nairobi woman rep Esther Passaris. She gotta go, man.
Excuse
That-
me,
Isn't
Esther Muthoni Passaris.
Isn't
whatever her
isn't
name
she
is.
nominated? Or
Yeah.
she's
I
nominated,
don't,
right?
I don't
No,
know.
I think she was. Is she
Was she
nominated?
elected? I thought she was nominated. I could be
Okay,
wrong.
but who's the Nairobi woman rep?
Senior. But she
No,
was,
a woman rep you're elected. You're not nominated. I think she was elected.
okay.
Yeah, I think she was elected. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the Nairobi County woman rep.
Woman rep. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
those are the
MPs are nominated.
Those are the
Okay,
people.
got it.
Those are the people who need to go very quick. You know, like and there's so many. I think if that is opened, it will create floodgates, and then it's gonna trigger. You know, like because now the first responsibility that the newly constituted IEBC has is to declare a date of when the by-elections of those seats that are missing representatives will be. Now that right there will be like a mini election, because think about it, by-elections have been, you know, like the spaces where, you know, like the political formations try to, you know, like gauge their strength. By-elections, because remember even Jubilee before they won in 2013, they started winning these small by-elections in Masaini, in I don't know what, so that's where they start gauging their strength. So this right here, expect, you know, like some dirty politics, expect all, and even in all seats, civic, parliamentary, and any other seat that's missing representation, expect a lot of ugliness to come. It's supposed to be,
What?
it should be 90 days within when someone has died. That's when the election should be. So now I think because we're already against the law, so I think maybe they're gonna decide, or maybe the advisory that the court might give will be 90 days from when IBC was constituted. So within the next 3 months, let us expect a by-election.
Somewhere.
And a myriad of cases, by the way, because
Yes.
I know I know right now there are people. I can see Akina Okiya Mtata. There are people who are drafting.
Yes. They're just waiting to
motions.
hit submit.
Yeah,
They're waiting to hit
And
submit.
you
Yes.
know what is interesting in all of this thing, and hata hizi stories ama by election, kuna story ya chapa, because that's money,
Yes.
yeah.
which means whether we wanna call the regular Kenyan Wanjiko or not, hapa kuna masafaring zinakam. Juu hii do itatoka mahali na itoki na ile mfuko imezoea kujazwa, but itajazwa tu at the same rate. They are not giving up theirs so that you can have your by-election.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty
It's going to
interesting
be it's going to be
and rocky
yes.
to see what's going to come down the street. and with the Gen Z na vile wametoa na kiburi nao wako na mafat fingers and they are good with the Excel na nini inaitwaje, what's this programming language,
Python.
Yes, na Python
And all.
Yeah.
my friend,
I'm telling you.
whoa, ho, ho, ho.
It's something that we had never seen June 25th last year. None of us have ever witnessed. None of us had ever witnessed.
Couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
We couldn't imagine.
Could not imagine.
And that's why I keep telling people, because kuna watu who are kind of jealous of Gen Z, and I'm telling them, yes, in our era there was stuff that we did, but it was nothing close to what the Gen Zs are doing. So there's been 3 different eras. There was the independence. I am sure the generation before the Mau Maus, I'm sure they tried fighting for freedom in their own way, but Mau Mau brought a totally entirely different way, and the other people in other communities who fought for freedom, they brought another very different way, which was very violent, but it ended up working. Sabasaba, that was the next generation. So this generation in between, after Uhuru, after independence, walikawa katulia, then Sabasaba came up, which was about 30 years
kulikuwa na coup hapo.
Yes, there was a coup attempt.
Don't forget kulikuwa na coup.
Yes, there was
it
a
wasn't
coup
a coup attempt. It was a freaking coup.
It was an actual coup.
It was a coup. It was just reversed.
There was actually another coup attempt in the 70s that
didn't even become this.
Yes, but then kukakuwa na coup 82, and then there was Sabasaba.
Yes.
And then now after Sabasaba, there's been a lot of other different forms of agitation. Sabasaba led to the 2010 constitution.
Yes.
Then now there's a Gen Z revolt. Now this is another, iteration. And this right here, it's nothing like we've ever seen.
Sabasaba led to Tuwe being removed.
Sabasaba led to Tuwe being removed.
Yes.
It led to later on Moi coming out of power, and on the tail end, it brought a new constitution.
Yes, but removal of Tuwe opened up now
multi-partyism.
Yes.
Because multi-partyism was against the law. So now to wrap up this segment, first of all, Washeke here was saying that Gen Z have a plan. They know it. They name a leader. He or she will be co-opted or even was killed. Why are millennials still stuck on wanting them to name a leader? And I agree with Washeke.
And please, by the way, Lawrence, because Lawrence has been saying they need a leader.
No.
And you know what he shared? Who he shared? He shared a clip of Makaure.
Yeah.
Talking about trying to support the idea of what Baba is saying about
Makaure has been bought. He's earning now his rent. He's
Lawrence,
been bought.
I want you to call Lawrence.
See, yuko hapa, maybe hata anatusikiza.
Maybe he's listening to us. I would love to have Makaure here.
He's a Mandela nini fellow.
Oh, he is?
Yes, he's a Mandela fellow.
You didn't know?
He's a Mandela fellow.
My friend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Makaure is a Mandela fellow.
If you don't think hiyo ni kupewa ka envelope, what do you think?
Yeah, Makaure is a Mandela fellow.
Ukujua?
Yes, he's a Mandela fellow.
Nakumbuka tushako na hawa sewa Mandela.
Yeah.
He's a Mandela fellow.
Now I know.
Yeah,
yes.
but now, he's been bought. I mean, he's looking at it in a different perspective. But now he has to agree with everything Raila says. He has no choice. The check has already cashed. So he cannot say any other alternative. Yeah, and it's cleared. And we now see him as a Mandela fellow. I don't think that was just a coincidence.
I don't think it was a coincidence.
Yeah. Okay. The other comment that Washeke has put here is that they might look disorganized and oblivious to the tactics the government might take to kill the movement, but they are very much aware and working out solutions in their own way. We just need to rally behind them instead of sowing division and doubt every opportunity we get. I agree. And then Washeke says they are going to use all tools at their disposal, from Andamano to technology. Let's not underestimate them. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. The conversation is heating up here. Now, on this conversation, my take before we move on to the next part, because your time in Akimbia Sana, is that national dialogue might be necessary, but let's be honest, Gen Zs won't buy into any conclave led or suggested by Raila. And I'm saying this in a very polite way. The protests are still delivering a sharp message to government, but in my own view, I think it's also time to diversify resistance. You know, like I've got no issue with the street pressure continuing if that's what Gen Z decides. They've been doing that very effectively. But also, let's be clear, this isn't YK92. Back then, when Moi deployed Jeshi la Mzee to intimidate, right now, unlike Moi's regime, Ruto's regime is doing something that's more sinister. It's deliberately killing people, not just during protests, but in neighborhoods at night with goons and police working hand in hand to hunt down dissent. But still, the protests have rattled the system in a very big way. Just listen to Ruto's tone lately and what some of his allies are saying, or watch how often government officials are lashing out. But for me, the real measure of success won't be street numbers. It's going to be Gen Z flooding the voter register. And now that the new IEBC commissioners are sworn in, that clock is ticking. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to
Before
speak
you move on,
mic.
I want. Did you listen to Jamila's memo?
Jamila's memo
on News Gang.
I don't think I got to the end. I listened to News Gang yesterday, but I don't think I got to the end.
If you get a chance, News Gang, Jamila's memo last night.
Our Twitter will be picked up, but that's just my opinion.
No, those are too big to fail. This government is very smart. Those are too big to fail. They cannot pick up.
You want to pick up liners?
Yeah.
You want to ram Sam?
You know,
want to attack Yvonne?
You get to a point where you're too big to fail. Yeah.
You can't. But listen, because funny thing, how Ruto, Sudi, and Agina Farouk and whatever are talking about how we're supposed to raise our children right. And in the next clip, how they're talking, how they themselves are displaying stupidity. But Jamila's memo.
Tuaskizo Jamila's memo. And Wacheke is telling Scala Roberts they're already thinking of that. Tune in their spaces on X and listen to their discussion. Now, we want to move on a bit to move this conversation. Your time in Ndambio Sana. We want to move on to plans to build a church on State House grounds where the presidency is moving into the pulpit. Tonight, we'll be asking if Kenya is still a secular state or are we witnessing a quiet religious takeover one sermon at a time. We also had the Supreme Court rule against Muslims in a case involving the entitlement to inheritance for children born out of wedlock. Now we want to unpack how lines between religion and state are being redrawn, and we'll try to figure out how far the Constitution goes in allowing the free practice of religion and where it draws a line between church and state. So we want to revisit that church versus state argument in Kenya. Now, Mike, we're having this conversation during the week, you know, like outside of the emotiveness of this issue, 1 billion shilling, 1.2 billion shilling church on State House grounds. You know, like from the readings that you've been doing, you know, both emotional, Mike, where is the law on this, first of all?
So first, Article 8 of the Constitution, 2010, it states, a state and religion, there shall be no state religion.
Okay.
Period. Tuanze hapo. This means that Kenya is a secular state and the government is not allowed to endorse or establish any religion as the official state religion.
Okay.
Building a house, a church on State House grounds. That is akin to declaring a religion. Because Homeboy said there's nothing to apologize and he's using 1.2 billion of his.
But he said his own pocket money.
His own pocket money. 1.2 billion. But on state property. If he built it in his current house,
or in Sugoi.
But not State House.
Now, this case is already in court. I would like to hear the opinion.
It's that simple. Like,
I'd like to hear the opinion. You know, like, I mean, yes, the Constitution is usually straightforward, but these rulings, they're usually very murky. You know, and sometimes the Supreme Court, it's hard to predict how.
You don't know if it's been bought or not. I'm sorry.
But I would like to see what ruling they will have on this, because there's someone who's already presented a case, and I think there's no problem with having a prayer space within State House. You know, like if you have a prayer space for Christians, if you have a prayer space for Muslims.
Lee, you're saying prayer space. Very different from what is going on.
Yes.
Having a space to do whatever,
very
that
different.
is fine.
Yeah.
But building a church.
Because guess what? Is it an 800 or is it 8,000 seater? I can't even remember.
8,000 seater.
It's 8,000 seater. That's a very big
Because
church.
guess what? So if let's say
so
Ali becomes
8,000 people who will come?
It's Christians.
No, but
no, my friend. Who are the 8,000 people who you're going to sit in there? Because remember, not you and I are walking into State House.
Oh, of course, vetted people.
There's 8,000 vetted people who are gonna go sit there.
Yes.
But you know, this in itself is telling you that this guy is not planning to
leave
go away.
He's not trying to leave anytime
Even in second,
soon.
he's seeing himself beyond a second term. He's seeing himself there. So I think myself personally, you know, like I would love to wait and hear what that ruling will say, because of course there's interpretation of building a church on State House grounds will be akin to you know, like according to what you read, will be akin to kind of like declaring, you know, like a state religion, or
that would be because this is the State House.
Yeah.
The State House is the official residence of the President of Kenya.
Yeah.
The President of Kenya building something like that is declaring that we are a Christian. Is ideally saying.
But I think also.
And yes. And if you. What you're saying is basically a potential for conflict, because while not explicitly barred, the construction of a house of worship on public land could raise constitutional questions about potentially elevating one religion
over another
above others.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough.
Public land.
Yeah.
Yes, and you know, for freedom, so we have freedom of religion, and the Constitution guarantees freedom of religion and belief, including the rights to manifest one's religion through worship, practice, teaching, observance, either individually or in community.
That's Article 32, yeah?
In public or private. And now is when you have the potential of the conflict. There is nothing in our constitution that actually bars the house of worship within military or government space. However, you have to now start looking at now the things that are within our constitution, because Kenya is a secular state, right?
Yes.
So Kenya's constitution is defined as a secular state, meaning there is no state religion and the government is prohibited from elevating. And that's where now the conflict comes in, because when you now say you're building a church, you're now elevating. So what about the other religions? Because normally when and even when we have prayers, you always bring
Islam.
You always bring people from every one of those religions to come in and pray for the president.
Washeke is saying, I'm okay with the church being built if there's a mosque, a Hindu temple, Dini Mswambwa Church, a Corino Church, et al. Alongside the church. So that is Washeke hapo. Na Skylar Roberts anasema, the government is taking advantage of Kenyans' nature of politeness for years, entertaining abuse decade after decade. Enough is enough. Skylar further says, but the Gen Zs think differently. Even us, the millennials, are never going to be a match. We are more of conformers like our parents before. And I agree with Skylar.
Yes.
Yeah, we will never get close to what the Gen Zs are doing. Sorry, Omosha, I'd cut you off.
It's okay. So basically, for me, my conclusion is that while there may not be an explicit law barring houses of worship, the principle of secularism and religious freedom enshrined in the Kenyan Constitution could be invoked to challenge the establishment of a house of worship in military or government spaces if it is perceived to violate those principles, which is the answer that I had listed, you know, before. So it's one of those things, and I guess at this point we have courts that would try to interpret what the actual constitution says, or what the letter of the law, or what they were trying to, where they were trying to head us when that was actually put into place. You know, but looking on as a layman, not understanding, and I'm just saying that I'm trying to understand the separation of church and state, and then now you've said, okay, well, I'm taking this religion and I'm putting them forward. And if you're building a church, is it an Anglican church? Is it a Catholic church? Is it what's the other one?
Let's assume
SDA.
Yes, is it SDA
or Jehovah's Witness? But yes. I think based on this one is gonna be
ACK.
Evangelical, an evangelical type situation. Akina Benihin type.
Yeah. So Jack Rabondi brings up also a good point on YouTube. Jakrabondi says there's always been a churches at the State House for the over 300 families currently living there.
That is very different.
And then he
from
says,
what this guy is saying.
Kwani, how many churches have been built in barracks and other government property, which is true. Like the DOD property in Hurlingham actually has a mosque.
They don't have a mosque inside.
Or it's not inside?
No, the mosque is right.
The mosque is outside.
Okay. Right outside. If it's a DOD, yes, it's ni DOD, but iko hapo inje.
Iko nje.
Haiko ndani ya nini.
Okay.
And even when you look at, it's almost like, take it the same way, and I'll use this loosely. When you have people who work in a tea plantation, they always end up having those houses of worship, blah blah blah, because you have to have those spaces there for those jamas. Because those jamas they can't come out.
There's also a mosque on Bagadi Way that I think is frequented by, I think it's administration police, so I don't know what unit. You come on Bagadi Way. You know, like when you make that, when you're coming from town, you make that right from Langata Road. There's a mosque somewhere there, not too far from Riara is
University.
it Riara University? So kuna mosque hapo.
You know, this is still very different from something that is there for personnel and for people who live and work there. This is pretty much saying it's like almost saying, I love soccer, I'm going to go build a soccer stadium inside State House. That's the way I'm looking at it. So the question then becomes, who's going to come to this soccer stadium inside State House? Even though you're building it with your own money. You've now decided to choose...
Because are you opening it for people?
No, because you're using... Since you spent your own money, sasa you're the one who decides who comes.
Yes.
So is it... or are you donating it?
So it's ideally...
And if you have 1 billion to donate, should it then now go help feed our people? Because this 1 billion you want to spend on a church, and we have people who are Madogodanios, Mukuruwanjenga, Sijui I don't know, Madare, Sijui I don't know. How many slums do we have? Even if you took that 1B, it's 1B. You take this 1B and you go all the way in Paka where Ali's cousins are over there in the biggest refugee camps. And you give everybody money. You still won't finish it.
And the interesting thing is, you speak on that. What was interesting, listening to News Gang, something that was very interesting was that this guy has not even come out to offer rambi to the lives lost during Sabasaba, and even
the previous one.
Because the very first
June
one,
25th.
What did he call?
Watch even that.
Even last year, did you say he came out and just
he
insulted
called them prisoners.
But remember, he was also part of the gava of Baby Pendo time. Alisema kitu. Hata mpaka wa leo amesema ametoa do, because this 1B, you give everybody a meter. And Ali will say that that's going to water down our money. You give everybody in Kenya a meter. You still have change.
Cold as ice. Cold as ice.
Somebody needs to tell me, like, where this lack of reading the room is really evident. It's like, I'm here, I'm a dictator. And you know what it reminds me of? Kina Papa Doc.
Yes.
Because these are signs of a dictator. Siko ubaya.
No. He's shown everything.
These are all signs.
The signs,
Kina Ivory Coast, where they spent the money building these churches of gold and sijui nini. Sai sasa unarudi unaangalia usema, okay, it looks beautiful, but watu wako zimeenda.
Yeah. But now on this same subject, Scala Roberts hapa anasema kicks of a dying horse. Administration is throwing mud on the wall to see what sticks. And I think there were some earlier comments that came in from Jerry Kiare. She was saying the call for dialogue is not in good faith. Dialogue assumes that both parties are starting from a genuine place of wanting to resolve issues. Who will believe that Ruto can lead with integrity? All right. So much about this. There was also on this same issue of religion, there was also a ruling by the Supreme Court that brought some controversy, where they ruled against the Qadhi's courts, where in the Muslim faith, a child born out of wedlock is not entitled to inheritance from his father. Let's not say parents, it's from the father, because a child out of wedlock can still inherit from the mother. But so it came back to the High Court and went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled against it and said that a child born out of wedlock can inherit regardless of religion.
This is what you're going to teach us. But
so before, I mean, because I like approaching this subject from what most people know, the average Kenyan.
Yes, go ahead.
What the average Kenyan.
Yes.
The average Kenyan, and when I say the average Kenyan, I don't mean all Kenyans. The average Kenyan do not necessarily know about the existence of Muslim courts or the Qadhi's courts. And even those who know it do not know the background behind them. There's this feeling that like these were special courts that were created. Muslims are getting special treatment. So a lot of people do not know the background. And some claim with the new constitution, all this no longer matters. When the new constitution clearly has provisions protecting the Qadhi's courts, just like it was there in the Lancaster Constitution of 1963. So I don't know where is a good place to start. I don't know whether we start with the background of the Qadhi's courts or on the logic.
Let's not start with the background. Let's just start
the ruling. I guess for some people they may not know what the ruling was. What happened for the Supreme Court to rule? To rule what they did.
So there was this gentleman who passed away in 2015, and he had a lot of properties and had multiple wives. So when he passed away, the first wife, of course, went to the Qadhi's courts and instituted proceedings to get control of the estate and get it distributed according to Islamic law. The person who died was a Muslim. So get it instituted under Islamic law, where the wife has a certain portion and the children also have a certain prescribed portion. Now there was another woman who, was also the wife, went and placed this claim in the High Court. She went and placed claim in the High Court. So now there was a double claim being made on the same estate. One in the Qadhi's courts and one in the High Court.
Yes.
So what ended up happening is that because there were two claims being made on the same estate, now this other woman was actually not a Muslim, but later on she claimed that
she converted to Islam.
That she converted to Islam.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that again, she didn't realize it, but that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, yes.
Because Christians, and this is leakage I'm now giving to my Christian friends, a Muslim man can marry a Christian woman. I know it doesn't happen very commonly, but it is allowed.
It's allowed, yes.
In Sharia under certain conditions. A Muslim. So now, because you're allowed to marry a Christian woman is entitled to inheritance. And the children of a Christian woman who are born inside of wedlock are also entitled
to inheritance.
Correct. So the issue with this other woman was not her religion. That was some confusion that was coming in.
Yeah.
It was the fact that the marriage happened after
the child was born.
The child was born. So the child
was born out of wedlock.
No
matter how you look at it.
Yes. And now once you're born out of wedlock,
you get locked out.
You do not get locked out automatically. So there's different ways of doing inheritance in Islam. So if you do not have a written will, there's certain prescribed portions that are there from the Quran. Like the portions where a boy gets 2 times a girl. There's a portion for the mother. There's a portion if the mother is alive. There's a portion for the wife if the wife is alive. There's a portion for the father if the father is alive. And that thing. But there is also a provision where you can write a will, but in Islam you're allowed to will only up to
a third,
1/3 of your wealth.
Yes.
So within that 1/3, you can include all unusual situations, or all the people who are not included in the entitled category. This could be an adopted child. even an adopted child is not entitled.
Is not entitled. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that 1/3, now you can include an adopted child. You can include even a neighbor.
Yes.
If you want money to go to charity. So basically anything you want, you can include it there. So anyone who has a child out of wedlock must take that additional step of including writing a will and including it there. The other second option someone has if you've married out of wedlock is, or rather if you had a child out of wedlock, is to gift the child while you're still alive. That's allowed, and that has no limit. That has no limit. So especially if you want to do more than 1/3 of your wealth, that is the only option. But there has to be a legal exchange. Hakuna mambo ya nikikufa utachukua hii hapa. No, it has to be an exchange. Kama ni gari, ndo hii hapa logbook tumebadilisha, the title is in your name.
Shika.
Take it. So that can be done, especially if you want to go beyond that 1/3, because now once you've exchanged that, let's say like your net worth is 300k and you want to give him 150k, you have to give him that 150k. So now your new wealth, you're now worth 150k
150,
and no longer 300k. So that right there, I guess the unusual thing that's coming out of here, where most people are not understanding, especially people who are not from within the Muslim faith tradition, is why is a child out of wedlock being locked out? It is unfair. So that right there is where I think most people, very, very honestly, are coming from.
Okay.
You know, like, it is unfair. So that's, and I think that's the confusion with all this.
So now the ruling,
by
the Supreme Court, because it went to the High Court.
So it went to the High Court now. So because it was double, they usually have to make a decision which court will handle this. So they came together and they decided that the High Court will take care of this. So
Supreme Court stepped
So
down.
the High Court, it went to the High Court. Before it got to the Supreme Court, it first went to the High Court. And then I can't remember exactly how the High Court ruled, but it was appealed. I think the High Court ruled.
The High Court appealed. The High Court ruled and said,
it's a Kadhi's
matter.
Dem
akaruka
akaenda Court of Appeal. Akaenda Court of Appeal kwanza.
Yes.
Yeah, and then from Court of Appeal ikapanda mpaka Supreme
Because
Court.
I think even the Court of Appeal said, in your Kadhi's.
This is a
Kadhi's
it's
matter.
in the jurisdiction of the Kadhi's.
We can't jurisdiction. We can't whatever. It can Supreme Court. Supreme Court. Wakafanya mataheko. Madhogodhanio.
So Supreme Court ndo wakaenda and they usurped that jurisdictional part and they made a ruling.
Yes.
And this has caused
it has caused
within the Muslim community.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what are the for instance, what's the chief Ujamali Aliaga Juzi?
Abdul Halim, the chief Kadhi.
Yes.
So he had not made comment. He was unwell. He had not publicly talked about this, but I think he was preparing to come out publicly about this
and give a
but you see, the interesting thing within Muslim circles, this is not even controversial.
It's not controversial.
It's not even
Christians.
controversial.
It's Christians who are not getting it.
Yes.
And here's
because for them they're looking at it from a Christian perspective.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. Within the Christian fraternity, whatever, there are people who are born out of wedlock, and how many stories have we had of mzee amekufa at the funeral, mwanamke anakuja na watoi watano, that they even have a prolonged succession battle.
Yes. So you see, part of
that's the irony that I don't
get. Logic of a lot of these Islamic rulings is and this comes from a very different perspective from someone who's used to secular and Western type of law. But with Islamic law, the general logic is they try to measure, like individual benefit or public good. Public good will always outweigh individual benefit. If the private benefit will cause a bigger public harm, then the ruling will go with what's good for the public over what a private individual may benefit. And that's a difficult concept to understand. It's a whole in what's called usulul fiqh, which is now the study, you know, like the study of law in Islam and how these rulings come about, because it's a whole process, you know, like there's fatwas that have been written over 1400 years on this issue, different fatwas by different people on this particular issue. So it's not even controversial at all. So when it comes to a child born out of wedlock, I know we live in an era where being born out of wedlock is a normal thing, but one thing with Waislamu is that just because something has been normalized, we do not make adjustments with those normalizations. And a good example is issues around LGBTQ. You know, a lot of things that are being normalized, there's a stance that we have that, for example, like today, it looks very unusual. Why are you giving the boy 2 times what the girl is getting in inheritance? It looks very unusual, but when you go back a little over 100 years ago in the US, a woman could not even inherit. A woman had 0 inheritance. A woman could not inherit legally. Yes, in America.
Even in Kenya, just the other day.
Yeah. So you see, but sasa sisi now that, so it was unusual at that time, a woman was getting, you know, like half of what the man is getting. So it was unusual for a woman to get anything. So people are looking at Muslims at that time, hey. Why are you guys giving women, because women in themselves were viewed as property. Women were viewed as property. So yeah, like over time, you know, things shift, but we always remain balanced within those rules that we have. And this is just one of them. And part of the overall good is for whoever has, in fact, we do not have a term for illegitimate child. That's an English term, you know, because the illegitimacy was created by the parent who went and got the child out of wedlock. So this parent who made this mistake kind of has to make an atonement, and the atonement is write a will and include yes, yeah. So you have to do that, you know, as a parent who did that. Now, if you don't do it, now that is part of the problem. Yes, of course, every child wants to get a piece of inheritance, but part of also what it's avoiding ni mgongano katika meza ya mirathi, in the inheritance table. Like you mentioned, it is very normal after someone has died, mama muuza mboga, mama muuza samaki, mama muuza njugu wamejitokeza wakasema, oh, hata pia mimi na mtoto wa huyu mzee. So now
niko na mtoi wali.
Yeah, niko na mtoi wali. Sasa now the entitled children here are now put in a position where whatever they were entitled to is going to be put in dispute, because the people who are showing up and claiming. So the general idea, because ikitu inheritance ni chafu sana, it will make brothers never talk to each other again. It will make siblings kill each other. And we've seen it. So that's just the general idea behind this. And you need to start getting used to it. You need to start getting used to the idea that in Islam, it's a whole different wavelength in how law is looked at. You see, like in Judeo-Christian jurisprudence, which is what this secular law is based on, they use something called proof beyond reasonable doubt. That's there has to be the burden of proof. Whoever is bringing the accusation has to bring the burden of proof.
Yeah, beyond reasonable doubt.
Now, Islamically, we do not use that standard. So there's certain crimes that have a very high standard. Like, for example, a lot of people were bringing in the point, oh, why are you guys disinheriting this child? But you guys were not saying anything when this guy was having sex with a woman out of wedlock. And I'm like, you need to understand the jurisdiction that Kadhi's courts have in Kenya. Kadhi's courts do not have a jurisdiction on the penal code,
no,
on criminal stuff,
no,
because you know, adultery, fornication. By the way, for your information, adultery and fornication is also criminal in most states that you live in. Just in case you didn't know.
Many people don't.
Just in case you didn't know, you know, like you think these things are only this penal code is only in Muslim countries. It's there in most states you live in. There's a penalty for adultery and fornication. Just go Google whatever state you live in.
You know, adultery is in, like, you're right, it's in most, and it's almost the same as writing bad checks.
Yes.
They're there.
Yes.
Enforcement ndio sasa waga.
Ndo hivyo, yeah, there's a bit laxity on enforcement, but these laws are there. So these things, so these laws were not unusual. But now when it comes to Kenya, the Kadhi's court has, you cannot go to a Kadhi's court and say, you know, like Ali has cheated, so go punish him. So you can go ask for a divorce based on that, because divorce is within the jurisdiction of the Kadhi's courts. But then you cannot go ask them to punish Ali because Ali has cheated, or Ali was seen, you know, like doing this or that. And then even in jurisdictions where, you know, like in Muslim jurisdictions where, you know, like there's punishment prescribed for people who commit zina, and zina is fornication and adultery. Notice that in the Arabic term, there's actually zina, there's no differentiation between fornication and adultery, because sex is supposed to be within marriage. So whoever is fornicating and whoever is adulterizing, they're all almost doing
WhatsApp group.
They're in the same WhatsApp group. Yeah. So even in places where they do punish, there's a very high threshold of where I don't know whether it's 3 or 4 reliable witnesses. It is 4. Yeah, so you have to produce 4 reliable witnesses
that were present.
Hapo. Yeah.
Ukifanya tendo.
When and they actually saw this thing going. Not until we saw them holding hands. We saw them going into a hotel room. No. It's a very high standard, and for specific reason. You know, like zina is one of those crimes ya fitna. You know, like someone can go and accuse you just to break up a family.
Yes.
Or just to, So even in jurisdictions where it is a crime, you will never hear anyone ever convicted of it because of that very high standard.
The 4 people.
Yes. And talking about high standards, so there's usually standards for crimes that are set, but generally speaking, if you go into an Islamic court, the standard is not the burden of proof like you usually hear in a Western court. The standard is usually the truth. So they can use other methods to try to secure the truth. For example, if the person said you went and fornicated, if the 4 people who said they saw you doing it are people who are known to be liars in that society, the judge can dismiss that case just based on the fact that there's proof that these people are known liars. So that's one big difference in an Islamic court. And then things will hold water if they're truthful people who've come and said something. But then now, like in a case of zina, 2 truthful people are still not enough. Yeah, they'll be like, yes, we believe what you've said, but it hasn't met the threshold. It's a very different ballgame. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We are here, you know, like spitting nuggets about different things that you're not going to hear anywhere else except on the OneMic
and
show.
Let me read this. This is from Article 24, I think Chapter 4, Limitation of Rights of Religious Law. This is the Kenya Constitution, see Mimi?
Yes.
This clause allows for differential treatment under religious law. The provisions of this chapter on equality shall be qualified to the extent strictly necessary for the application of Muslim law before the Kadhi's courts to persons who profess the Muslim religion in matters relating to personal status, marriage, divorce, and finally, and last but not least,
inheritance, yes.
Period.
So that's fully, so the Supreme Court essentially usurped the jurisdiction.
Simple.
Of the Kadhi's courts.
They did.
Not that the Supreme Court could not make a decision, but they should have made the decision with the limitations set within the Kadhi's courts, which is Islamic law.
Or they could have just said, bring in
Chief Kadhi.
I'm mostly a client. Somebody
so the problem.
Somebody with that. Or just say defer back to the Ks courts.
They could have deferred.
That would have been the best
problem
option.
is that there's a finite number of judges in the Supreme Court, and you cannot bring another one inside there. So
got what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's part of the problem. And even within the Court of Appeal, there's also a finite number of judges.
But Court of Appeal said Kadis.
Yeah. Court of Appeal said Kadis.
High Court said
is the same thing.
Supreme Court ndio mataheko.
One of the things that had been suggested, and the late Chief Kadhi, who was just pardoned yesterday, had talked about this in extent, was one of the issues was create a Kadhi appellate court, which would be resided in the High Court. But then now, because you'll remember, when the 2010 Constitution was being drafted, the church came and fought this idea. This idea that the church came and fought this idea of Kadhi's courts. And we have not forgotten. We have not forgotten that. Yeah, so the church came and fought this idea, and I think what a lot of people need to understand, this has nothing to do with the conflict of Kenya being a secular state. Like when Kenya was acquiring independence, or before we got independence, the Kenya colony, this map that you see Kenya as today is not what the Kenya colony was. So the Kenya colony, there were two parts in this very beautiful map that you have today that were not there. One of them is the Northern Frontier District, what you call the Northeastern Province. It was governed separately. It was not part of the Kenya colony. The other part was a 10-mile coastal strip. Kenya did not have a coastal line.
No.
It was governed separately. It was a protectorate. It was actually under the Sultanate of Zanzibar. Because remember, at that time, Zanzibar still had their last Sultan, Jamshid, who was, they were still under that jurisdiction with some agreement with the British. It was a protectorate. So now when we went to Lancaster is when some negotiations happened. And to give Kenya a coastal line, there were some negotiations that went through with the Sultan of Zanzibar, and the Sultan of Zanzibar agreed on certain conditions. Because remember, the 10-mile coastal strip and Zanzibar was still not part of Tanganyika. This thing called Tanzania was not there. It was called Tanganyika. So there was the Sultanate of Zanzibar, which comprised of the islands of Zanzibar, which is Unguja and Pemba, and all these islands are on the Kenyan coast. We are talking about Mombasa, like Malindi. We are talking Lamu, Faza, Kiunga. All those parts, they were part of the Sultanate of Zanzibar, and it was essentially an Islamic state. Yeah, it was essentially an Islamic state where people were Muslims and they were living under Islamic laws. So on condition, because I think also this Sultan knew, what could potentially happen if I just throw my people to the wolves. So they were given these conditions, these very limited conditions. At the bare minimum, give them these rights. So that is how this ended up in the Lancaster Constitution. Now, remember, before the British, before the Kenya got independence, there was the British. When the British was governing, when they were governing that coastal strip as a protectorate, they had tried bringing the Judeo-Christian laws. Wakakuta fire. Then at some point, they surrendered. Even in their own evilness, even the British in their own evilness, they were like, you know what? Okay, Nisawa, we'll allow you guys to do your own things your own way. Before the British,
Portuguese.
There was the Portuguese, and the Portuguese were more vicious than the British.
And they saw dust.
But even the Portuguese saw dust. Even the Portuguese recognized these Islamic laws.
And this is the history we need to know.
Yes, but now sasa unakuja now within this Kenyan, this Kenyan, because essentially the coastal strip and NFD, they were all force-fed. First of all, by the way, NFD, there was a referendum that the British conducted there, and they said they want to be part of Somalia. That's another part that people don't know. They clearly said 90% want to be part of Somalia. But for some reason, the British did not want that because they did not want a powerful Somalia. Because the greater Somalia, which would have comprised of northeastern Kenya and Ogaden, in Ethiopia, and I think also Djibouti would have become a very powerful country. So the British did not want that because they were very good at separating people of the same ethnicities.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, and that's why there was a shifter war in the 60s in Kenya, in making sure that that NFD remains in Kenya. So that's how this Kenyan map that you have today came into being. So there are people who are living there with these laws. And by the way, another thing I also sometimes wish to educate my Christian friends on, I know there's a lot of conflict and discomfort that there's been a crisis within Christianity, and people sometimes do not want to listen to the church, do not, like they want to separate themselves from the church. That crisis, and I'm saying this in a very kind way, that crisis is not there within Islam. So now you're not seeing Muslims complaining, why are we being governed by Qadis? You're not seeing any Muslims complaining about that. We do not have that issue. So, and that's part of the reason why this right was granted to us, and it's inalienable. Like people have tried to fight it, and there are people who are still trying to fight it until today.
It's locked in.
So the example that this gentleman who came on Fixing the Nation called Murshid Abdallah, he did a very amazing job in explaining
Murshid Abdallah, Fixing the Nation.
He gave a very interesting example of the ruling that the Supreme Court made was the equivalent of a Supreme Court of someone bringing a case, a Catholic bringing a case on bigamy, because the Catholic Church doesn't allow a second wife, doesn't allow bigamy.
Yes.
Of a wife bringing a case against bigamy, and then the judge tells her that that is old stuff. Nowadays, people marry many wives, so we're overruling you. Your man is allowed to have more than one wife. It is the exact same thing that happened here. Number to call, 202-683-4570, press *5 to speak.
That was a beautiful lesson.
Yes, I think a couple of comments that were coming here as we were talking.
As you were edumacating us.
Yes.
As you were edumacating us.
Okay, acha nianze hapa na ya, let me address all these questions. Acha nianze hapa na ya Lauren Kagwi, let me see. Lauren was asking, kiulizo tu between Muslim Sharia and law of the country, which is used a corrupt judiciary system. Sasa hapo kwa out of wedlock manenos, very tricky. Lauren, tell me what's tricky. I really want to hear, like the perspectives, so that we can educate each other. We can educate each other on this subject. And then Washeke anasema, yes, in North Carolina, you can sue your partner for alienation of affection. There you go. And this is in the United States. And then Lauren Kagwi anasema ati PRNQL courts tena. Hiyo sijaelewa ni nini hiyo hapo. Wololo mambo imekuwa complicated. Hapo penal penal court. I did not say penal court. I said penal code. Penal code is criminal law. Yeah. So the Qadis courts do not have jurisdiction on the penal code, criminal law. Criminal law ni kama umeiba.
Yes. Those ones now, because
yes.
that gentleman said that when it comes to kama umeiba,
yes,
that's how you deal with.
You cannot go to the Qadi.
No.
Kama umezini pia, zina. Zina, I think, which is, I'm not sure if it's a crime in Kenya, but there's a possibility that it might also be a crime. I am not sure. I know LGBTQ behavior is a crime in Kenya, but I don't know about fornication and adultery. Fornication and adultery, I know in many states here in the US it's a crime. Many people don't know this, but if you don't know, now today you know. And then Skylar Roberts anasema succession is a huge topic on both Qadhi and state law. Very true. And then Skylar anasema, I'm sure a lot of diaspora would love the panel and a guest input to shed light on the issue. It's a huge, bigly bad issue in Kenya today. Very true. And then Washeke Ndirangu says, usurping the Qadhi court is slippery, especially because of the agreement that was made allowing Kenya to keep the coastal strip. Because Washeke brings a very important point here. Because I tell people, like, this is gonna be breaking a treaty. Remember, when you break a treaty, breaking a treaty is the equivalent of declaring war. So when you break that treaty, it means the coastal strip is now open to secede. Remember the talks of Pwani Si Kenya? So this is part of the background of it. You know, so when you cannot, so the people who understand law understand this very well. And of course, the new constitution recognizes all existing treaties. So when you pull out of this treaty, it's akin to declaring war, it's akin to secession. Ona kama vile South Sudan iliachana na the other Sudan. It is the same thing. So this map that you like of Kenya, that you share and that you draw and that you have T-shirts for, it will completely change. Uno Mike.
No, let me just to reinforce this. Article 32, chapter 4. Chapter 4 of the Constitution, Article 32 says, freedom of conscience, religion, belief, and opinion. And I think, and almost read this. And it says, I'm trying to get the video right here. Every person has the right to freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, and opinion. Every person has the right, individually or in community with others, in public or in private, to manifest any religion or belief through worship, practice, teaching, or observance, including observing a day of worship. Number 3, no one may be denied access to any institution, employment, or facility, or the enjoyment of any right because of their religion or belief. No one shall be compelled to act or engage in any act that is contrary to their belief or religion. This is the Kenyan Constitution.
Yes, absolutely. And people need to read it.
Kenyan Constitution.
Yeah, so I think before people talk, you know, like one area where we've tried to challenge ourselves so much, you know, like on this panel and even on guests, our audiences that we interact with, is be comfortable with saying, okay, that sounds unusual to me, but I'm not familiar with this topic.
You too.
Yeah.
Ainangori.
Yeah, because I think people are so quick to throw their views and how they feel. How you feel means nothing. You know, like on how you feel is good. Like if you're feeling sick, if you're feeling tired, that's okay. Your opinion is valid there. But now how you feel on matters law.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
What does the law state?
Yeah, what does the law state?
Period.
Exactly. You know, go read the law and figure out how these things came
understand
into being.
it. Just understand it.
Yes, before you throw your opinion. 𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏 hapa anasema leo nasikia French ama ndio Greek at how many courts. We need a courts 101 session with Ali, our professor in law.
There's the High Court.
Yeah.
No, there's the magistrate
court. The magistrate's court. That's the lowest.
That's the lowest. That is where you have. That's where apparently even the Qadhi's courts are.
That's where the Qadhi's courts are domiciled.
They are domiciled.
Yeah, but there's talk of having an appellate Qadhi court that's going to be domiciled in the High Court. Kuna High Court.
High Court.
Yeah.
Court of Appeal.
Court of Appeal, and then Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
_Ncagwi, if that should be a simple.
Yeah. Na 𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏.
𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏. Wait, that's a new name.
𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏. Yeah. 𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏. No, 𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏. Don't confuse me here. Don't wacha kwanza kuniconfuse, but nilikuwa nakwambia ukitaka kujua hizi courts zikumbuke kwa Kiswahili. Kuna mahakama ya kadhi, which is the Qadhi's courts. Kuna mahakama kuu, which is the High Courts. Kuna mahakama ya rufaa, which is the Court of Appeal, and then kuna mahakama ya upeo, which is the Supreme Court. So I think in Swahili utazikumbuka vizuri. Yeah. So hapa 𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏 anasema Christians may be complaining because we are confused and maybe too much laws to follow. I'm still confused.
No.
And then 𝒌𝒊𝒂𝒏 anasema wacheni watu wa catch feelings jamani. No, it's okay to catch feelings. It's okay, and we all do. You know, especially whenever we come across things that are unusual or we've not seen before. But I always challenge that take the next step. And nowadays it's easier. Zamani you had to go open a big book, and then someone discovered Google to make things easier. So now you don't have to open a big book. You can just go Google, and then on top of Google, someone else invented ChatGPT.
I was gonna say that.
Like you can easily go and say, this is what Ali said on the OneMic show. Is it true or was he lying to us? So you can always, and we are very happy to be counter-checked, to be fact-checked, and I think we have to challenge ourselves because we live in an environment where so many people are throwing different opinions of how they feel or what they think, and a lot of this is just, it just doesn't have any factual substantiation. So that's where I tell people, let us challenge ourselves. And then Scala Roberts anasema separation of church and state, no building over 1.2 billion church in State House, total crazy. And this is in court. We're going to wait to hear what the Supreme Court will say. And then Luis Muya anasema sisi Wahindi pia tujengewe temple hapo State House. Hapo Luis Muya declaring yeye ni Mwindi. I've just never, heard of a Mwindi called with a name like Luis or Muya. But anyway, Luis Muya has already declared that yeye ni Mwindi. Time muda ndo unazidi kuyoyoma. There was another topic that we wanted to touch on. Maybe we can just touch on a bit. Let me just say briefly, and this is regarding the flopped Essence Festival this year. The knives came out very fast. And Caroline Wanga, a Kenyan at the helm, who's the CEO of Essence Fest, was thrown under the bus. But people were asking if this was a fair critique or another chapter in the quiet war between African immigrants and African Americans. We wanted to go beyond the headlines to ask, is Africanization being scapegoated in this instance, or are we witnessing deeper fault lines within the global identity that still struggles to reconcile power, culture, and belonging? So, Omosh, maybe you can just briefly talk about this, because time do you hapo. You understand the music and festival business better than any of us. This backlash against Caroline Wanga, the Essence Fest CEO, seems bigger than just a failed event. Is this a symptom of a deeper discomfort with African immigrants occupying visible power in African American spaces, especially in entertainment, or what are we missing if we reduce this to just bad planning? Omosh Fire.
Overall, there's probably a critique, but the critique is misdirected.
Okay.
This is not about one's ethnicity and or religion, or should I say cultural background, or where you come from, or in her case, she's even been accused of relationships, which is even false information.
False relationships, yeah. They're saying she has a relationship with another woman.
Yeah, there's even pictures that have been posted, with kids.
Yeah.
It's just folks go to the nth degree. And basically, to me, I attribute this to this, I'll call it racism, so to speak. Okay? I attribute this
black on black racism.
Yes, this naivety. I attribute this naivety to the times that we are in now, with what's been sold to us about folks who are not originally American.
There's a term called ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. This is a very recent, I don't know that it always existed, but it's a very recent term to me.
Well, you can call it that if that's what you want to call it. Some people may call them Black Americans. Some people may call them African Americans. Some people may just call them blacks. Okay? Because blacks are termed as those ADOS folks. And then you now have somebody who has an immigrant who came and immigrated in here, who is black, who is now going to be attached to your original ethnic group, whether you then become, say, you're Kenyan, or you become, Kenyan American, or you say you're African, whichever way you want to term it. The bottom line of it is that is what is being used as the measuring stick to say that because of this, she didn't understand the assignment, and it's because of her that Essence Fest pretty much went down, and even to the point where some folks are saying, oh, you're bringing Afrobeat musicians, African vendors. Yes, that's nonsense. That's still part of black culture. And if, for instance, you have African vendors who sign up, because as a vendor, you and I have been vendors before, right? You have to go sign up, pay, get your space, right? And there's nothing that says that if I'm coming there and I'm selling cheese balls, I can't sell the cheese balls over there as opposed to somebody who's coming to sell fufu. It's basically, we are here to raise money. it's a business.
Yeah, it's a
The
business.
Essence
We have to
Fest
make
itself
money.
is a business.
Yeah.
So whoever comes, buys the tables, and gets the things will come over there. If I'm the one who's selling my my kente cloth or my African shorts or whatever you want to call them, my tie and dye, that's what I get. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, to me, I think it's misplaced. Now, going back to the entertainment space, there's a way. In fact, the crowd has changed. People are no longer leaving their homes to travel across state lines. Maybe even I'm coming from, I'd venture to say, maybe if Essence Fest is in, say, Louisiana, I'm coming from Texas.
Yeah.
There has to be something in there that draws me to come in. Okay? It doesn't mean that I have to have a big ticket item like Beyonce performing for people to come.
So is it an issue that festivals have generally struggled after the pandemic?
The pandemic, first of all, changed the way people party. So anything entertainment-wise has struggled. Even if you noticed, we were just in North Carolina, right? You notice the way people party. It's not the same way.
It's different.
Folks don't necessarily care for dance floor. They want a place where they can come, they can sit down, they can talk to their friends, they can laugh, they'll have their drink, and then they have their hookah. And if there's 2 songs they like, they get up, they dance, and then they leave. Which, in essence, is a backyard party. You're in your house, apartment, because we have been conditioned a certain way. So we have to uncondition ourselves from that 2020 to 2022 time when folks were pretty much in the house or around, staying away from people.
Yeah.
Prior to that, there was a certain way that people partied. You didn't, you wait, like, okay, there's a cruise, what is it called, those Tom Jonah cruises and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
You don't even hear those things anymore.
No.
I mean, it doesn't mean that they don't do them. They may do them in a smaller fashion. But the people who are actually buying the tickets, who are coming out, who are spending the money, you also have to look at the ages of these folks from 2020 to 2025. They've gone up in age. They're now probably grandparents. They're now whatever. Maybe they're the ones who are with their grandkids and all of that. So things have shifted. And then you have to find a way to attract the younger generation to switch them over to come to these places and these spaces. And who are you going to use to do that? You definitely don't have money to hire. And in fact, even if you hired Jay-Z, those kids wouldn't come because half of them don't even know what he was singing. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you might have to get Harry Styles, if you know who that is.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that things have shifted, and that shift, it's not everybody who has caught up with the shift so they can pull the crowd and bring the crowd in for entertainment, for food, for the festival as it is, right? The vendors. It's a whole a whole ecosystem that needs to be shaped.
Part of the accusation was the Africanization, so-called Africanization of the event. Of course, the Afrobeat artists, like the food, like bringing African food, fufu and everything, and the insinuation is that that's what's turning off people from the event. That's insinuation.
That is bullcrap.
Yeah. Because
this same so-called turn-offs, or the people who are turned off, right? When you go to clubs, what's playing?
It's the same thing. It's African, even on radio. Yeah.
Again. So,
but now,
so if you're telling me that you want to have Frankie Beverly and you want to have the Chuck Brown, blah blah blah, these jokers are not here anymore.
And they also come eat.
You know what I'm saying?
They also come eat in these African restaurants.
Correct. I mean, Anita Baker is not performing. And it's that again. That's that era. That's that era of people. You have to switch.
So is there something, Omosh, that's maybe not being said? If that's not the case, is there something more? Is there something sinister?
Like I said, there's at the end of the day, it's black on black race, okay? And then people also not understanding that demographics have changed. Entertainment has changed. Having a fest like that with the type of money that is expected to go into it, and you can't find sponsors, and it's only you who's going to do it, that is not happening. And then when money is not getting spent, it's not circulating, the sponsors are also like, no, we're holding back. We're not going to give you money for you to put up what you used to put up.
Yeah.
So that money is not coming anymore. So whereas you used to have $100 to put up this thing, you now have 20. but people are still expecting the $100.
Yeah, but the question I'm asking here is, are we talking of a case of maybe of a Black American world that talks about Black integration and Black unity with the Black diaspora? Because we see even a lot of them, now relocating to Africa, Ghana, Kenya, different parts of Africa. So are they, because there's this one side where we are seeing them, like all Pan-African Black unity, or is it only the aesthetics bit they want without the authority? Because you see now when it's coming to entertainment, when it came to entertainment, they were always the authority, but over time, the last, I would say like 10 years, the authority has shifted back
it's
to
gone
Africa.
everywhere.
Especially when it comes to Black music specifically.
It's shifted to Africa.
Shifted to Africa.
But don't forget that reggae is in there somewhere.
No, reggae.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes, and reggae has always been there. But remember, right now, if you go to Jamaica, you're gonna hear Afrobeats. That's
correct.
just how much like
correct.
African music has penetrated.
African music has taken over, and some people are still stuck in hip hop is it? No, it's 50 years of hip hop. So hip hop has been around for 50 years.
Yeah.
The guys who started off with hip hop, if they started off with hip hop and they were the ones who were entertaining at that point, these guys are in their 70s. If when hip hop started, because you would have been like, let's say 19 or 16.
Remember, it wasn't only hip hop. like Blacks had dominated so many genres.
I'm saying there's hip hop, there's R&B, there's hip hop, there's R&B. Those are the two genres.
Those are the two major genres that dominated.
Because you're not going to put soul in there, okay? Because it's like soul was, and when I'm saying soul, I'm talking about James Brown.
Yeah.
Okay, that era was pretty much fading out.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the R&B still stayed steadfast, and even R&B itself has changed.
Yeah.
If you look at the people who are the artists, it used to be big bands. No more. It's like an individual person who then sings and they're categorized in there. But at the end of the day, I just think that these are folks who don't understand the sign of the times, and they're not actually the target audience of the Essence Fest. They really are not the target audience. The target audience is a younger demographic who are going to come and spend money, not the older demographic who would say that this is our one annual excursion.
So I think part of the argument that's coming in is that because that's one of the things that Caroline Wanga, the CEO, tried to do. She tried to attract a younger audience.
Correct.
So part of where they're accusing her is that they're saying that younger audiences don't have money like that, and the aunties are the ones who complained. That now we no longer can go here because now we are rubbing shoulders with like 21-year-olds, and that quest of trying to bring younger audiences, the young people did not come in as they had expected, and then the aunties also pulled out.
I don't think it was a young folks who pulled out, but I don't think it was a young folks who.
So it's the aunties who pulled out.
Okay, it's fine. Even if the aunties pulled out, right? I don't think it's because this didn't fail because of the audience who were there. This failed because of the prevailing times and folks, corporate sponsors not coming in. Period. If you don't get corporate sponsors for those festivals, you don't have them.
Yeah,
your gate sales are not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot get those sponsors,
and Carol Wanga is the one who brought in Target,
and the sponsors are not there anymore.
She used to work for Target,
and remember, Target is also
has DEI issues.
Now, not everyone has DEI issues because it has been made an issue. Everyone has immigration issues because it has been made an issue, right? Coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Yeah. So if that is the sign of the times that everybody is looking at, then guess what? We're no longer going to spend our CSR type of money to do those sorts of events. We'll take our CSR money and do something else. Maybe we'll look at opioids and how we can help people with opioids.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, a couple of comments here coming here. 𝒉𝒐𝒂𝒄𝒌 is saying 𝑦𝑽𝑽𝑬 too. Kenya Doyo says, me, I think the solution is not to make Essence everything for everyone, but to inspire other festivals that honor the fullness of African identity with Essence as a mentor, not a melting pot. Where? Okay. And then 𝒉𝒐𝒂𝒄𝒌 further says, Kina Passport Bros, I think a lot of 𝑤𝑰𝑽𝑬. they can't believe Africans origi wameomoka. So you know, like, I want to throw in some dose of honesty here about how I feel, and this, I'm gonna say clearly, this is how
go
I feel.
ahead and say, go ahead, say.
This is not factual, and I hope I don't get crucified for this.
Nisawa, we just take you to the Kadhi court.
Now, this
Supreme
backlash,
Court.
this backlash against Essence First CEO Caroline Wanga feels less like a critique and more like a warning shot at African immigrants who dare take the driver's seat on Black American spaces, especially in entertainment. Let's be honest, many festivals have experienced challenges and intense competitions post-pandemic. But now that Essence is similarly facing challenges, suddenly Africanization is a problem. To me, it's giving scapegoat vibes through and through. And while I get the frustration from some corners of the African-American community, this conversation can't just be about feelings. It has to include facts, power, and even context. Because that's what we're really witnessing, or rather what we're really witnessing is a deeper identity conflict within the global Black family. A discomfort with who leads, not just who is, not just how it's led. We can say Black unity a lot until an African takes the mic. Then it's all different. So yes, mistakes may have been made, but let's not pretend Caroline's Kenyanness is what broke what broke Essence. The real question is, are we ready to stop performing Pan-Africanism and we actually practice it? So that's just my thinking and my feeling about this, because I think especially in the entertainment space where Black Americans are dominated, they're looking at how the Africans have been coming, and there's a lot of discomfort. There's a lot of discomfort. It was all nice and dandy when Africans were being given awards in BET in a small room candle, not going to the main stage. But now
they're part of the main conversation.
Things have changed.
Yes.
Things have changed.
Even the Latinas were being thrown out in international. Everybody was under that whole international nini.
And to be fair, you know, like, Black Americans have gotten awards in African awards. So I don't know, you know, like, I can understand the discomfort with this shift of power that's happening. And remember, Afrobeat is mostly Nigeria. Now other genres are being discovered. Amapiano. Lingala is a genre that even America has not really, African
They haven't really embraced it yet.
They've not really discovered it.
They've not really embraced it yet because it's not getting that much play
Lingala,
yet.
There's Mapuka. There's this one from, Mapuka is the one from Ivory Coast. Is it Mapuka?
Yes.
Yeah, there's
Mapuka,
also now
Mbalax,
there's also now the
Kizomba.
There's also the Kizombas. Kizomba is also now starting to get known
with the dances and the classes and all of that.
Then we're talking about East Africa. You know, we have Bongo Flava, we have Kenyan music. You know, like, there's so many different genres that now all these record execs in the US, they're raising their eyes. They're trying to figure out.
And Ethiopian music, I don't know what they call. They have
Ethiopian music too.
And that's because they are a pretty large population of, you know, in America with money.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I think, and this is just my own opinion.
Yes.
I think there needs to be a conclave
between African immigrants and African Americans.
This guy, I think he's trying to tell us to close it.
No. I just think because
a conclave.
Because think about it.
No, there does need to be dialogue.
There needs to be
about
dialogue.
this
I think
because it's very displaced.
And the problem is, because I can tell you one thing. If, let's say, a lot of Jungus had it, they would have been in attendance. I don't think they would have complained. In fact, if anything, they would have trooped in, you know, like, because Essence is supposed to be ideally black.
It is
now that's the argument. It is Black American culture.
American culture.
Yeah.
Now, of course,
and even Akinya Doe is reminding us, aunties pulled out because the essence of the festival was the centering of the African American woman, and now Nikama, they're losing that essence.
There needs to be a conclave.
But those aunties themselves they cannot support Essence Fest, whether they come or not. That's the crux of the matter. They cannot.
Conclave.
And without corporate sponsorship, which right now, no one is giving money for anything. It doesn't matter where in the world. We have issues.
So this is just a bogus excuse.
It's an excuse. You have to find a scapegoat.
Because listen,
it's an excuse.
Wasn't the Austin Fire Department chief blamed being DI for what happened in Kerrville in Texas?
So it's a similar thing that you're saying that
it's a similar thing
here.
Yes.
Because they said even that there was that Essence Ventures was bought by a Liberian, because that was also coming up in those conversations. So they were like, this whole thing is being Africanized. So
because like now even they were putting up the fact that they're putting up the fact that Wanga is a lesbian.
Yes, that also coming up.
How many African Americans who are very influential are gay?
No, it wasn't so much about her being even a lesbian.
No.
But that was being put out there.
Did you see the picture?
Yeah, of her.
It wasn't even about her being a lesbian. It was because the picture they had up there was with a white woman and a white woman,
and
right,
and mixed kids.
And the whole point was of them. They said she does not get it, and this is why she doesn't get it. She's not black enough.
So yeah, and then hapa Lauren Kagwe anasema
again reaching, I think it's just reaching for.
You have to go for, what is it, low hanging fruit?
Conclave.
Lauren anasema Omosho umeongea kama 12 wise men combined, everyone making immigrants an issue. Alafu kuna wale we took your jobs na applications ziko online. Sijui wanatakaje. And then also there's this issue of like you're taking our scholarships. This thing has been,
it's been there since day one.
It's been, and it's very big.
You went to school in a black school in a black neighborhood.
Yes. And
how many African American friends did you have when you were going to school?
To be quite honest,
probably 2 or 3.
So Brenda BK on YouTube anasema the inflation persists post-pandemic shift in how people party has changed. Omosh touched on this. Overall, festivals are also facing less sponsorship, or rather corporate interests. And then Jerry Carey here says, I think part of the issue is that there is a segment of Black Americans that do not identify with Africa or Africans and want to preserve what they believe is their unique identity, and that's fair enough.
That's fair enough.
That's fair enough.
But again, there still needs to be a conclave, because I think the world is really shrinking. Tupende tusipende.
It shrunk.
It's shrunk already, because you're having Africans or African descent really now playing basketball.
Sports.
So what are they going to say about sports? All over. No.
All over.
Forget even sports.
All over.
Yeah.
We are sprinting in 100 meters, which we were never being seen.
Never being seen.
I mean, it was there at sprinkles.
Yeah.
But we were not being really seen.
But the idea that
you have a Kanisimbile, 𝑭𝒐𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒈𝒊𝒂, Ferdinand Omanyala.
Yes.
Like that was very unusual. It used to be a Jamaican-American affair.
That is it.
Yeah.
But now Africa is really coming
and a loose Nigerian.
And a loose Nigerian.
And a loose Nigerian.
And
that
Olapedia Denike.
That would be one in every 10 years.
Yeah.
You guys, if you remember Innocent Ebunike.
See, that's why I said one in every 10 years, because since then, who was the last Nigerian?
And then there's
that. Then there used to be a random Nigerian, Frankie Fredericks.
Yeah.
That's
that's South African. Yeah.
Namibia.
No, Frankie Fredericks
and
was
now there's another Ivory Coast lady who's just tearing it up, I think, in the 200 or 400. Anyway, all I'm saying is there needs to be a dialogue and conclave such that it doesn't feel like African Americans don't feel like we are coming in to superimpose, and then Africans don't feel like we've come to take over. There really has to be a middle ground to understand, because there's a lot of, understand first and foremost the history of the Essence Festival, because even I personally do not know the genesis of the Essence Festival, right? How it started, right? But now I'm gonna go back and say, when did it first start? You know, you start understanding the history. Trying to shift blame and say, you know, like now, like you're saying, because you're really nitpicking by calling out Wanga and putting this on her doorstep, saying that, oh, she doesn't get it, do what?
You know, KOT never got wind of this because we were too busy fighting Kasongo.
Let them fight Kasongo, please.
Yeah, they're fighting
okay, let
Kasongo.
them fight Kasongo.
But because
there's still time.
If
There's still time.
If
They'll come
KOT
back.
got wind of this,
They'll come back.
I don't think even Black Twitter would have been able to handle KOT.
No. No.
It's okay. They'll come back.
Yeah.
You know, this is just a passing. It's you know, it's gotten to the point. And I think what may end up happening is that Caroline Wanga is actually going to resign. That's what I think that's going to
probably
happen.
That's going to happen, or she's going to be pushed out.
Or she'll be pushed out by the board.
Yeah.
Because
she's going to resign.
Because there's so much outcry.
There's so much noise, yeah.
There's so much outcry from our subscribers of the Essence magazine, right? These are our people. They're crying. Okay? This is what we're seeing out there. So, sorry, we have to make a change. Yada, 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 yada. It's still not going to fix the issue. Because even these aunties, okay, to say many in fact, they're past anti-Waharia, so uko hapa 65 plus. How many times are you hanging, and how many of you are going to come to support the entire fest and have it run from point A to point B? Yet you've been coming to this fest for the last 20 years.
And I think you also brought up something that was very important. The rappers back in the day, 40 years or 50 years, they're 70-something. 60-something.
What
about the current?
They're at least 60 headed up north.
The current group, the current people that they're even rappers we don't even know.
Yeah,
correct.
Those are the guys that
they claim they're rappers. They claim they're rappers.
Okay, entertainers.
Lil Uzi Vert.
Oshio. There are people like my niece and nephew Isaac, Rehema,
I'm telling you,
the kid we interviewed.
Audrey.
Jade. The one who came with Isa, with Rehema. Jide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those ones. And chances are Akina Jide probably, them they listen to Akina Bana Boy.
Correct.
Then whatever. But there are other guys that they listen to.
Yes.
Yeah.
That, like you said, if those guys attended the festival, or if they were there, then chances are they would go. Monetarily.
And even these aunties who are saying ho ho ha he he he, they started doing this thing at like 25. 30.
Akinyadoyo disagrees with all of you. She says diasporic voices can be invited in, but as guests with humility, not as co-curators unless explicitly partnered. Let's be sensitive to the madhogodhanyo that comes with our unique identities.
But I said that's why I said there needs to be a conclave.
But they were okay. So even in saying that they were brought in as partners, right? Or that's what she's saying, that for them to be brought in as partners.
Yeah.
Right. That's her thought.
Yeah.
So when you go and you curate these events, and you call in artists, okay, and we've had this issue even in our own Kenyan events, where they become reggae festivals. True or false?
True.
And people still came and still partied. Nobody was crying to say, oh, Wakenya tu ndio tunataka tu tuone Wakenya. And again, there's a shift. So it's always about, okay, how do you balance one versus the other? And also such that corporate sponsors will come in. Because corporate sponsors may say, okay, I'm going to come in and sponsor, but I'm not going to sponsor if Public Enemy is coming.
No, that's true, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if you tell me a loose banner or somebody who is similar to banner na kwa hiyo line na najua hawa ndio watu wako kwa chats, pesa yangu mutaona. So sometimes you have to switch to conform to get those tunes so that you'd be able to get the big screens that are going to be sitting over there for the next 2-3 days and pay those jamas their 100K for setting up that stage.
Jerry Kiari says the Zulu Festival in New Orleans caused a lot of outrage in South Africans who claimed that Black Americans were appropriating their culture. I did not even know about the Zulu Festival, but
Allah?
Yeah.
Ni sawa tu tunaweza enda Afrofest na tuachane nao wase. Because Afrofest is kicking. Watu walikuwa Portugal.
So Lauren Kagwe anasema Kenyans, yani how we had Obama, Mara, let them be prepared to be sick of us Kenyans and other Africans. And then Skylar Robert says, let's emphasize our Pan-Africanisms, our struggles and commonality as a reminder. Emphasize and highlight their struggles. How all of us Africans have suffered. We as Africans have an opportunity to accept and to pretend to be separate. People are afraid of what they don't know. Let's be empathetic and continue to share. Omosh, Lauren and Omosh, please play 𝒋𝒖𝑽𝑬 𝑤𝑎𝑔𝒑𝒊𝒂𝒄𝒌 tukimaliza. And then Skylar Nasema, otherwise we'll keep blaming each other and dig the pits of misunderstanding further. I personally thought we were getting to a good space, especially with this movement of Black Americans going to Africa. But this just
it depends on it. No, sorry, before you go there.
Conclave.
It depends on the age group. That's something that is very important. The age group hapa. Who are the people who are complaining na ni watu gani huenda Essence Fest?
Wow.
Hapo kwa age group unamesikia umeambiwa ni aunties ni kina nani, ni age group gani?
It's people who are in their 60s.
Ma auntie wa haria.
So that's what you have to look at. These folks are not the only time that they're coming out. Ndio watu wenda cruise, wanaenda na girlfriends, sijui manini nini blah blah blah. Na Essence pengine ndio kwa checklist.
So you're saying the Essence main audience, they've grown old, and Essence is now trying to attract a newer audience.
It has outgrown them, but they also are saying they are stuck in the mud and saying we want it to be the way it has always been, so that when we come we know tutapata Frankie Beverly na Maze, tutapata wase makina, those the old school singers. We're gonna find them. Those old school singers that you're expecting. How many of them are alive?
The Temptations.
First of all, how many of them are alive to even sing for you?
You know, the sad thing is, I think Caroline Wanga will step down, or she'll be pushed out by the board, and then they will bring, like an African American on board, which is okay. But I don't think the Essence Festival is
good luck
recovering,
finding Anita Baker on stage.
Yeah.
None of those people who they want to sing for them is going on stage. Hata Mariah Carey haendi stage. So kina nani wataenda huko kuimba? Kwa hapo kwa kusema okay, sisi ndio wale watu wa our African Americanness in terms of from a musical perspective. You're not getting LL Cool J to go on stage. Okay? Sugar Hill Gang is no more.
No.
You're not Jay-Z is not going on stage unless he's doing a loose Beyonce appearance. You know what I'm saying? Fat Joe is doing certain things. Maybe he might come and show up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs. But these guys are tired.
No, they're tired,
And because they've been playing, some of these youngos have been playing for the last 20, 30 years. 25 to 30 years.
But for them to appear, the check has to be right.
Correct. Which means you need sponsorship. It's haitakuwa watu wa kulipa kwa mlango, au watu wa kulipa kwa mlango, and that's not how the artists are getting paid. The artists are getting paid through the corporate sponsorships, and then hizo pesa za mlango ndio sasa za kulipa hizi vitu ndogo ndogo. Other things that you need, and then you come back and you say, okay, we had a festival. At the end of it, we got this from corporate. Corporate gave us this. This is our outlay. This is what we actually made.
And you see, if Carol Wanga pulls out, I think Target, she's the one who brought Target on board, or because she came from Target. So if she pulls out, Target may also, Target has its own 99 problems.
Yes.
But then Target has money. They will still be standing.
But let me ask. If let's say she didn't get Target but got Costco as a sponsor.
It's not about who
No. Just work with me on this because again, just as much as they are reaching and blaming Carol, let me also reach in terms of sponsorship. Yes, I understand. Like even Brenda said, post-COVID, there has been whatever. But hypothetically speaking, if Costco decided was brought in by Carol to be a sponsor, I think, hypothetically speaking, that people would have been looking at this as a glass half full. They would have been looking at it from the perspective of, it's post-COVID, people are not whatever, Costco was supporting DEI. Let me finish. It was supporting DEI, whatever. But the fact that Target was brought on board, Target itself in even the black community.
Yeah, it has problems.
It was a
Big
poisoned chalice.
Any corporate right now has DEI related issues, and the ones who are not pulling down their DEI, it's because wamekatu ngumu, wamekata.
But that's why I was saying, by having target on, already bullseye ulikuwa umejiwekea, because guys are going to boycott. Again, I'm not saying I'm reaching, but I'm gonna reach. In as much as they're reaching for an excuse.
It's possible.
It is possible.
It's possible, but the whole point of it is this thing was not fiscally or financially responsible for them to do. That is why they had to either water down, which means if you went this year, the things you found were gonna be different. Maybe you even go for cheaper artists. And who are these cheaper artists? Inaweza kuwa ni hao ma Afrobeats that are cheaper than getting an established guy who's who's going to the Grammys every year.
And before we finish up, all I'm saying is I agree with you, but right now they're looking at the glass as half empty, and the cause of the glass being half empty. I think if they had a different sponsor like Costco, the glass would be looked at as half full.
So Target is what led to Carol Wanga being.
I know. I'm just reaching.
She was targeted. She was targeted according to OneMic.
No. It's a hypothetical, and I'm just reaching.
One
okay.
Right. And as I reach,
wahenga
walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Mel imetia nanga na si wanga. Let's wrap this puppy up.
Wow.
Omosh.
Yes.
Because Bika left a bit.
Yeah.
So this was an interesting debate back and forth. I wish we would have got more from our audience. Audience yetu maze mwanze kutumia hiyo simu. In fact, even right now I need hot water. But anyway, see you guys next week. Thanks for, as always, standing behind us, being with us. And I'd be remiss to mention that there is an issue which hopefully we'll be able to get more into. Ali is the pedophilia at Alliance. That's something that we didn't touch on.
Yeah.
And it is a huge,
it's a big
deal.
It's a big one.
Deal, because this is an all-girls school, should I say a female school. Okay,
it's one of the top girl schools
that has been happening over decades. It's not something that just started Jana, and now is when the whistle is getting blown. So you'd also, there's a lot of things you have to wonder about. Who are the gatekeepers? What's going on? How come this is not in? And if this is happening at Alliance, does that mean it's not happening at other girls' schools?
Village schools. This is rampant,
you have Cubs, you have Kenya High, you have.
You're thinking of those high schools.
No, wait.
But I'm more worried about the village schools.
The village schools is even worse, because that is not even happening necessarily at the teacher level. This is happening at the Wochi level. Ule mse wagana bra, kwani unataka kutoka chuo utatokaje? Ama unataka nini? It's bad. It's really bad at the village level. It goes down to that level. So what checks and balances are they putting in place to arrest such things? And don't forget that we are still fighting this issue of fires in the dorms and sijui nini. And it's the same girls' schools that had these issues. aka Tamia Matiangi. Tuache na hapo. Tutaonana next week. Asanteni. And expect more of our show and our shining. Mazizi shati zenyu mumengara kwa maflyer leo. See you guys next week.
All right. Asante sana, DJ Omosh Fire. I thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Lauren Kagwi, Skyla, Washeke, everyone else who tuned in. Asanteni sana. This was one of another interesting episode. We might have some interesting guests coming up. Stay tuned. We'll let you know. I know people have already been asking us, huyu politician yuko US, mbona mjamschedule kwa show? We'll let you know. If things pan out, we'll let you know. But yeah, thank you so much again for tuning in. And remember, we'll be here every Friday, 8 p.m. Na kwa yote ambaye bado anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule. Operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu. Na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Aidan, Daddy loves you. Njeri, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week.